Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Pathfinders podcast. Um,
Yay.
I think this is like episode 27. I'll have to go back to the OneNote and look later because I've
Something.
been confused about which number episode we're at because I've been
Yeah, 'cause I like missed a
downloading and uploading
few.
things.
Yeah.
Macton, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
stopped counting. No, we stopped. We didn't actually start counting. I was reading dates. Yeah, but when we started in March, so by the time we get back to March, we should have somewhere near 52 episodes. So
Yeah.
we're about
We've been
we should
pretty
be about halfway there.
well, yeah, we've been pretty consistent. There's only been a handful of weeks that we've missed, so I imagine we'd be
And we didn't
pretty
also we
close.
didn't start we started bi-weekly. So
Oh yeah, we did.
yeah. So it'll be somewhere near like 40 something. So we are about halfway.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is the Pathfinders podcast. If you are live with us in chat, thank you for joining us. You are probably not unfamiliar to the podcast, but if it's your first time, thank you for joining us. And Nazareth and I, we are the Pathfinders, and we are charting the way through all the nebulous development, nebulous information surrounding the development of Star Citizen and Squadron 42. Um, I am Tree0311, Tree0311, and of course I have my good friend here.
Hello,
Oh,
everyone.
I
I
turned it
am
wrong.
Nazeris.
I'll never point the right way the first time. That is that and getting the stream information not updated before the stream starts are the two things that I will never get
I
right.
mean, when you're uploading the video, you just gotta stop it on a screen with my face on it, print out my face, and stick it to the side of the monitor where I show up.
Yes, that won't creep my wife out when she comes up to look at my desk and sees a big old picture of Nazareth on my computer.
Uh,
Who's that?
it's my colleague.
Yeah, it's my colleague. Yeah, he's not imaginary. He's a real person.
It's Jake from State Farm.
Yeah, I have actual friends. Okay, leave me alone. But yeah,
Oh boy.
we are back after a 2 week hiatus.
Wait,
I had a family. Yeah,
that was one.
it's been 2 weeks since we did the um. That's right. It's the love hearts that will really confuse her. Yeah, the little emojis, little stickers. I do heart
It's
Naz. Yeah,
we did
but
the thing on the reports on the 10th.
or yeah, the 10th was the
Yeah, no, it's only been a week. We
monthly
only missed the
reports.
17th.
Well, I mean, it's been 2 weeks since it was 2 weeks ago when we did that, so we missed a week.
Okay, I see how your math works. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
One
We only
podcast,
missed one
2
episode.
weeks.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, because I had a family vacation, went camping. It was amazing. Oh, my soul is so much better now. We rented a nice trailer and went camping with a bunch of friends of ours up in the mountains. And the campground had its own private hot springs. I live in Idaho, if you're not aware, and Idaho has the most hot springs out of the lower 48, and so that's one
Is
of
it a
our
mashed potato
hobbies.
hot spring?
Yeah, yeah. Oh well, that was there's another funny thing about that.
Oh
Um,
no.
but yeah, we got to soak in the hot springs. My mom came up, went camping with us. It was my 10-month-old son's first time camping, and he had an absolute blast. The pictures are absolutely adorable. It was just a really
Nice.
memorable trip. And then I went straight from there into a 6-day stint at work and got my ass absolutely handed to me. Oh my gosh. I got home at 1 a.m. last night, um, and had slept all of 6 hours in the previous 60. So the first 2 days weren't terrible. We got a little enough of a break after a bunch of calls in a row on each of the first 2 days that I was able to get some sleep. But the last 2 days were just absolutely brutal. We got a few new people live in chat and a few new follows, so I just want to say thanks for joining us live and coming and hanging out with us. We've got an interesting episode tonight. Nazareth has been working on this project for a while, right? Because you've showed me little bits and pieces.
Yeah, so much like Star Citizen, and I'll cover all of it when we get there. It went through a couple revisions. There was a point in time not so long ago where I completely said, "Nope, this all doesn't work. I need to just
Wait, so
delete it and
you're
start
saying
again."
you scrapped everything and started again?
I scrapped literally everything.
Oh.
Actually, it hasn't scrapped it yet, just because I'm still working off of that work. But
Mhm.
also, much like Star Citizen, they don't just Control A delete. They take that work, they learn what they need from it, and they build forward. So it's not just the work is gone. The work was, at the very least, learning experience.
That's how it has been with me and Photoshop and Premiere, except for the work has been gone because it was so many times where I've been in the middle of something and then I accidentally click the wrong thing, and I can't undo it or something gets messed up and all the work is gone. It's like, okay, well, I figured out how to do that because I was doing it wrong the whole time, and now I just have to redo everything that I just did the right way. And so it's been, it's an iterative process,
Mm-hmm.
but man, there have been some really frustrating moments as I've been, because learning all this content creation stuff has been a big challenge to me because I'm more of a hardware guy than I am software, and I don't do anything artistic. And so trying to, okay,
What we
this is
need
what
to
I have
do.
envisioned in my head. How do I get it onto the screen?
So what we need to do is find some way to make a hardware Photoshop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. For
just
sure.
build the thumbnails out of wood.
Yeah. Well, like, I've had other than I've had some technical difficulties. It was, devices not working properly. But other than
Mm-hmm.
that, like getting everything set up for my studio that I've got, you see, I have a green screen and, it has been relatively painless other than, a few of things needing firmware updates to make
I
them
have a
work
green
right.
screen too. It's just like sitting right there,
Yeah.
all folded up.
But the
It's funny.
software, oh gosh, in order to
Yeah.
make my own scenes and make the imagery for my own scenes, and it's been a bit slower going than I'd like, but I'm, working on my first video, and I also have a couple of shorts that are work in progress right now that I'm going to put out on YouTube. Um,
It's
yeah.
the latest
Before we
addition to
get,
my studio was
I was just
actually
about to
not
ask
part of my
you,
studio.
um,
My
before
latest
we get
addition to my studio
started.
was a bed.
Oh yeah.
So I don't have to sleep in my studio.
Hmm.
Anyway, you were saying before we get started.
I was gonna say before we get started, Nazareth, if you want to, we'll do the Captain Stable thing where who for our new people here, who are you? What do you do? Where can they find you? I'm just gonna copy
All right.
pasta Paul.
Copy pasta Paul. I mean, that's kind of that's been our mantra basically.
Yeah.
Um, so as I have already mentioned, I'm Nazareth, and you can find Nazareth basically anywhere I do things, which is mostly YouTube at this point, and the very occasional Twitter, but mostly YouTube. And I do video games in general, but currently mostly Little Big Planet and Space Engineers. I'm doing a lot in Space Engineers, way much more than I should be doing in Space Engineers. I'm going to be starting up a Let's Play series. I'm doing a Let's Build series of an entire fleet. Um, and with Little Big Planet, we're going through all the games, and we're also going to be doing, once we're done with that, we're going to start a Let's Dev series for building games using Dreams, in the hopes that Dreams
Dreams is
eventually
the engine,
becomes
right? The
a game engine,
Yeah.
blurred lines, but in hopes that eventually Dreams becomes a profitable platform, instead of a game that people buy on their PlayStation. So with you know, I could go on and on, but basically there are things rattling that may end up with it on PC and hopefully a market. So, and even in that case, eventually I might be able to put it into what is it called? Patreon or something like that.
Ooh.
Game dev. I love game dev.
And
But yeah,
that's
that's me.
why when we do the monthly reports, you're the one who reads all the engine stuff.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And like, I know more than I should without ever having stepped into an actual job of game development. Like, I hate using this. Like, I've used it so much, I hate using it now. But I almost went to college for game development, the biggest reason I didn't was because when the interviewer or teacher, I forget what he said his position was at the college, asked me to describe what a producer does. He said I described it better than most of the teachers there. Just like I don't think I need that. And after learning farther down the line, it's much more about showing your work than having a degree in the game industry. It really doesn't matter, and you actually are pretty far behind coming out of college. You have to relearn at least something. Everyone has to relearn something. The fun part about what they do at Star Citizen, I don't know if they do this in other companies, but at least for CIG, they let you basically do your as long as you're 3D artist, let you do your work in any engine, Blender, Maya, Houdini, whatever, and they'll just transfer that.
Yeah, they've
So it's
made a bunch of
great.
tools to make that part a whole lot easier and more functional from what I
So they don't have
remember
to
reading.
onboard everyone into like Maya because that would make it even more expensive for them. If somebody wants to work in Blender, by all means, we don't have to buy a new license for you. Like that's great.
Yeah,
That being
as long
said,
as
I'm
you
a
do good
terrible
stuff,
3D
we will
artist.
find a way to get it into the game.
Yep. So, but
Real
being a
quick, if you
designer,
are
yeah.
live in chat and you're listening, can we get an audio check? Nazar sounded pretty good on my end. It sounded like his volume was okay. Do we sound fairly equal? It's always hard for us to test this out, beforehand between our two audio inputs and getting everything leveled correctly. You'd
I'd
say
say Naz
Naz
is
is
much
much louder. Okay, give me
I
one
own
second.
volume.
Thank you. I will.
Yeah. The biggest problem is with my position at my wishful position, dream position as a designer. Nothing you actually do is visual, and people only care about the visual. It's stupid. So you have to design a thing, bring a thing to completion to where it has a visual aspect, and then you can put it in a portfolio. Because no one's gonna read a, mechanic digest on how good you are as a designer. Nobody. Nobody cares. Even if you're like pitching to a designer who knows what it's like to be a designer, they will not care unless you have work to show for it, not just text. It's a two-edged sword. And I haven't been really working on it. If I really worked on it, I could probably get a job at like after a year or so of just working solo. Like it's not unheard of.
So why don't we move right into what we've got going on this evening? Actually, before I do that, because I am coming back from a little content hiatus, not just Pathfinders, but everything because of the vacation and work. Um, I am on day one of like 22 or 23 off in a row, so I'm going to be doing a whole lot. Yeah, I'm going to be doing a whole lot of stuff. Spending a ton of time with my wife and son, thankfully. Well, as much as possible given her schedule. My wife is a flight nurse, but she's also in her last trimester of nurse practitioner training, so she's real busy. So it's a, but beyond that, I made a bunch of posts. Yeah, we are both
That's
medical
cool.
personnel. We both do much the same thing, but she is trying to get out of it, and once she's done with school, I get to go back to school, and then we'll be moving on to probably PA school is the goal. But the I made a bunch of tweets about things I've got going on this week. I also posted them as events in my Discord. If you are watching this right now and you're live with us, I'm going to go ahead and drop the link to my Discord. So if you want to stay up to date on everything Star Citizen, as well as hang out with a bunch of really cool people, we've got a lot of fun conversations going on. And it's a growing little community that I'm curating. Go ahead and join us, and it's where you'll see all the events listed for things that I'm doing on Twitch together. But we also have a bunch of other little things in there. We have a separate channel for the Pathfinders podcast where you can come in and talk about different episodes with us and other people who are watching, listening. You can post questions to us so that way we can use them in order to drive Spectrum Pulse segments where we take your questions and we go do deep dives on them, or we will just help you find the answers in short form if it's something that doesn't require as much of a deep dive. I also have the same thing for another separate channel for the new podcast that I'm starting, which premieres on Friday. I made the announcement during the Astropub 24-hour charity live stream. And Atira Kel and Nightcob will be on that podcast with me, where we'll be talking mostly Star Citizen, but from a more military perspective, using our various backgrounds. And then tomorrow I'm doing lore equals gameplay tomorrow afternoon my time, and then I have my first game night on Saturday night where we're going to be doing co-op gaming. I have a whole bunch of a section in my Discord called co-op game suggestions, and where we just take suggestions from people in the community of, hey, this is fun for 3 to 4, 4 to 8 players, doing a lot of mostly co-op PvE type stuff, and just easy drop-in games that we can all have a lot of fun playing, especially things that are more affordable. And so for this first one, if you I'm going to do a giveaway. And so if you join us live and watch on Twitch, or if you decide to, if you have one of the games, or you want to, or we're going to be playing Barotrauma. And so if you want to pick that up and join me, you can RSVP in that channel. But if you join us live and watch on Twitch, or if you play with us that night, you will be entered in to receive any one of those games that have been that I've pinned in the suggestions for free. I will buy it for you, gift it to you on Steam. Everything's on Steam just to make it easier. I'll gift it to you on Steam, so that way, if we do a game night for that game, we can all play together. I do this because all of my content is charity driven. So you can see right now we are running a charity event for StackUp.org. Last podcast we had a $50 donation from Cromtac, our very first donation. So this is all towards whether you subscribe, you become a sub or whatever, or you donate, or you just watch and deal with the ads. Any and all monetization outside of the direct donations will go straight to stackup.org. I don't take anything. I make a comfortable living, so it's all for charity, because gaming and gaming communities like this is what has helped me as a veteran deal with my issues, and that's why I wanted to start the co-op game nights. So that's what we've got going on this week. So if you follow me on Twitter or you join my Discord, there's a lot going on this week and over the next couple of weeks before I have to go to work again.
Yeah, and I just looked at the calendar. You know how our last podcast was the monthly report?
Mm-hmm.
We have the 31st, and then that week is the monthly report.
Okay, so next Monday. Yep.
Not next Monday, because that's the 31st.
Yeah, before the monthly report comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah, next week will be, because there's a roadmap roundup this Wednesday, which should be very interesting.
Yeah.
Because I believe because of the break due to CitizenCon, Jake didn't get to finish adding in the updates for the upstream and the downstream teams, because it's end of quarter, beginning of new quarter. So there should be a bunch more information that we'll talk about next Monday. But yeah, that is all we have for the announcements. Nazeris, I'm going to go ahead and transition us into the view screen so you can show us what you've been working on. Oh, did the Galactopedia ever come back up?
Not yet, no.
What the hell?
I don't know.
I don't think I've ever seen it go down like that. Because usually it's just
definitely not an update. Because they update it live. They don't take it down for updates. Because
they just
article is its own thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe they're getting DDoSed. I don't know. That seems to be the flavor of the year.
All right. Well, and transition, here we go.
Does it work? Do. It does.
Boop, boop, boop.
All right. So this is the roadmap I've been working. Not roadmap. Timeline. I've been working on. Oh, you switched it to yours.
How did?
And now back to
Why
mine.
did it do that? I'm in studio mode.
I don't know.
That is weird. Huh.
It sure doesn't. One more thing you can do is you can just make sure that your one is hidden. The shut off visually. There we go. This can only mean one thing: invasion. Vandal invasion. Anyway, so I'm working on this timeline for far too long. I actually had a previous version of it on a different website that was not built for making timelines. It was just built for general whiteboard. I got a lot of things wrong on that. I found out a lot of things very wrong.
I'm listening.
With
I
this
forgot
version,
to pour myself a beer. I'll be right back.
all right. With this version, once I type in the year, it automatically places it on that thing, and it's just nice and succinct. Very good. So we start here at the year 20, well, the 2010s. Then where are we? 2020. 2022. We're here. This does not correspond. So if we go over this way, there you go. 2023 or 2022. So this all happens not too far in the future. So this is 2020. The first one happens 2075. So not too far away. So this is just a timeline, and it is not done by any means. I'm not going to go through every single thing on the roadmap timeline. On the timeline. This will be a culmination of almost every post on what's it called, the comlink. This is gonna have definitely all the major events, all the planetary discoveries, all the companies will have all of the ships that are released or have a release date on them. So let's see. We have Banshee system discovered. We have a whole bunch of other systems discovered. Virgil, Davian. First contact with Banu. That went well. And within these, there will be the links. Show that one. To the actual posts that they come from. So it is all referenced and good. Let's see if this actually works. There we go. You can also open the images that I've chosen. And these are basically just images from the different posts on the comlink. So one of the favorites, Terra. Nice full screen one. Man, I can't wait to go to Terra. That actually looks kind of like a Nomad.
Huh. Yeah, God, the concept art for that one was so good, but there's like looking at
no
the
way it's
buildings.
gonna be anything like this. And also there's boulevards, so not happen.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It'll take influence from it, but it definitely won't
Yeah.
be like a one for one or anything.
Aegis, Cold War, First Contact with Tavaran.
But if you looked at the buildings from that concept art, you can see a lot of the influence from the architectural design already in game.
Yeah.
Like on Microtech especially, and
yeah.
Horus and oop, crap. Spilled.
So this is where I found out that the Galactopedia is down. This is all I get. This is all I get from it. So we'll be moving on. So everything past here. Did you stop selecting things? That'd be great. No? Okay. There we go. Doesn't really have Galactopedia references right now. So there's a lot, and I mean a lot of work to do still on this. Master Area was very long and well founded on Terra. So this is going to be publicly available, I guess tonight starts its public availability. And then we have a lot of stuff. We have, like, probably most of the posts are going to happen between the fall of the Messer era and here. Just because that's the part of history that matters the most is recent history. There's obviously major historical events that we have still to cover. So what we have is, for categories, we have alien races, astronomical companies, astronomical discoveries, aka planets and systems, crimes and criminals, which will be fun, belligerent duck, xeno threat, that kind of thing. Those will fall in that category. Disasters, we have a couple of those near the beginning. We have the Massacre of Garon 2, which started the fall of the Mezzers. The Artemis disappearance and the Terror formation disaster of Mars. Those are all major disasters. Engineering is a lot of stuff. Basically, if it's not an astronomical company thing, it's most probably a engineering thing. And then we have governments and wars, which is mostly Earth governments. So this is a timeline all from a human perspective. So governments and wars that will all be gray. So anything to do with UEE, UPE, or UNE be there, but also wars will be there. And then other companies was just anything that's not so Riari would be in other companies. Uh, Basically, anyone who doesn't build anything for spaceships. I don't know if would Schumann technically be an other, or would they be an astronomical? I mean, they do space stuff. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, they have their own stations, so I guess that counts.
Sure. There's also a 3D version on this website. I don't know how much this helps, but it's a thing. You are here. So this is the roadmap so far. I will be adding it probably at least a chunk of work each week. I need to figure out how to actually. Let me actually just like, how do I actually share this? I don't know if it's actually like get toable. Let's see here. What happens if I do that? Let me see if the thing actually works. Oh, it does actually work. Okay. So there you all go. There's the timeline. Eventually, I will be looking for people to help maintain it. Once I get a good chunk of the work on there. But for now, I'm just doing it myself. I don't know why I want to do most of the work myself. Probably just to get a good baseline of how to construct the rest of it. But eventually, like a lot of references are still needing to be made, and how I want to lay out those references. So if we go more, so in some of these I have the comlink first, and some of these I have Galactopedia first. So, and much like this is like a writer's guide. There's something in the writer's guide about Aegis dynamics. There's gonna be a lot of those like one line or very small references. So, and that's something I think Paul mentioned in his last live stream, last or one or two ago, where a lot of the lore is just shattered in these little comments and one-offs here and there. This timeline is not only to show you time in relation to them, but to pull all these references together to show you where they happen. So, like, big topics like Aegis Dynamics is going to have a lot of references. But for now, I'm just trying to get, like, the starter ones on here.
Yeah, and well, like, you know, as you because you're basically building the format at this point, and then once you've got the format down, you know how it's presented, how things should be added in there and linked, and then when you bring on extra help, you know they'll be able to, oh, okay, this is just like this. I just make it look like this, and you're good to go. Because that's that'll help you get caught up on the volume of things to add. But I really like this because it's visual. It's not just text like the Galactopedia really pretty much is, and it makes
The
it
Galactopedia
into
and the
something. Yeah, the
SC
wiki.
Tools also has
Yeah, just
a
walls of
timeline.
text.
And the reason
Which
I don't
there are
have
pictures in there, but
the reason I don't have the before time stuff, I'm trying to spell and talk.
the Land Before Time.
No. Historical timeline. So it has like we know in 30,000 or 300,000 BC the Hadesians occupied. Because if I added time this far behind, the entire history of Star Citizen would be a single dot.
Oh yeah,
Because of how the site does time, it scales the timeline. It doesn't just add more timeline.
Yeah, nothing.
So just,
nothing prior to like the beginning of what RSI shows us there, or CIG shows us.
Everything would just be blip done. So in order to actually make a timeline that's sensible, most of the stuff happens up here. I will add references just at the back of this timeline, just for reference to previous things. So I just started at modern. Actually, I told it to start at 22, and it did add some buffer space. So sure, whatever.
Well, and it helps put things into visual context because so many my brain basically just arranges things like what you have on screen anyway in my head, but it makes it so much easier to follow when things occurred. and that's been something that the narrative team has been working so hard on. It is, going back and making sure that everything is in the timeline correctly, that, changing
Hmm.
dates and, when was this star system, how was this star system found before, before this one or before this jump
Yeah.
point, blah blah blah.
And there's a couple of things in here. I don't know. I think the Mars one has it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
having
this
it
one
being
has it. May
visual like
3rd.
that makes it a lot easier to follow, but also, you don't have the big wall of text. You get the highlights,
Hmm.
relative to, the dates and the when, and then if you want to go read the big wall of text, there you go, there's the link. It's a the way you're doing it, I really like, because it is a tool, because, as Paul always says, and we're big fans of Paul, and followers of the Astropub, gamers don't read, and good, bad, or otherwise, it's not a big thing. Not everybody likes to read. It's totally
I don't like
okay.
to read.
Yeah. I see. And
And yet,
yeah, I love to read. And that's, my issue is, like, I can't, a lot of people want to watch the videos, or see things visually, and I can't retain, for me, for the most part, I can't retain that. I have to read
Mhm.
it. And, my brain stores words, better than it stores pictures. Um, but I'm definitely, not like most people, and most people will benefit from a tool like this far more than, words on the page, especially being able to, for recall ability, which is the huge thing of being able to
It's
recall that,
interesting.
okay, it's in this position relative to these other things.
Yeah,
you know
it actually doesn't actually tell. Yeah, I said that twice. Um, it doesn't tell you the full date, which is kind of upsetting. So for most of these, it's just February 1st of the year that it happened in. But for
hmm
the couple few, like for instance, this one happened on May 3rd. When it has that date, I do include it because if we go to the admin panel, basic info, it does actually have the full thing.
oh, okay.
So if we actually go up to Friday, yeah, 3rd of May, 2075. I don't know why this is not shown. I need to figure that out. See if I can make it shown somehow. Anything more specific would have to go through retcons line. So I'm not gonna say this is retcon proof. That's not what I mean. I can edit this, is what I mean. So I can
Yeah.
go back and I can fix stuff. So much like they'll have to do with everything. So, and this also keeps track of information for us, so we can say, hey, this was here, and it will show up on Galactopedia, like we've seen a couple times, with a different date. So we can take that information either to the lore team or just remember it as it was and will be. Um,
Yeah.
if stuff is retconned and said, no, this was the wrong date, it will be this way, then that is probably something I will put in the notes as was this year, retcon to that year, whatever it
It's kind
is.
of like when we do the sit reps. Hey, we have additional new information. We're updating you on it. That link will be included in there, or the change will be included in there, because sometimes there's context for the change that's important. And if you have the context, it helps explain it better. It's the same thing as when, 'cause I did a big old segment. It was like podcast number 2 for us that I did on the Arc
Mm-hmm.
Star map, and how there have been changes to the Arc Star map since its release at the end of 2016 that have been essentially undocumented,
Yep.
because they don't CIG, unlike with like the Galactopedia updates, CIG doesn't give us a monthly update or a quarterly update of, hey, we made these changes to the Arc Star map. They just occurred and no one noticed. The only way I noticed is because I was, a lot of us use the SC Tools wiki, and I noticed that the system sizes for a lot of the systems, and I still don't think it's been updated. I have to go back and look because I didn't have time to update it myself. But I noticed that the system sizes for the SC Tools wiki did not match up with the system sizes. A lot of them didn't match up with the system sizes for, the Arc Star map, and I was like, wait a minute, how this happened? And I was able to talk to the people who, work on the SC Tools wiki, the different, um, moderators and stuff like that, and go back through their records and find that, wait a minute, you know, this information was pulled on this date, and this is what it was then, but now it's this on the Arc Star map. And then I was able to find a post on Spectrum of, by someone who was actually tracking the updates, was going through, and finding every change for every quarter. I don't know how they were going about doing it, and did it for the first like 2 or 3 years of the life of the star map. And there was a ton of changes. It wasn't just like, the size of star systems changing. There was changes in the sizes of jump points where they were located, changes in the size of planets and where they're located, changes in the types of stars, um, all the position of all sorts of stellar bodies. They added new jump points here and there, um, and changed a number of different things. But all this stuff had occurred and was occurring basically on a quarterly basis. And I don't know whatever happened to the person who was tracking those, but that that information after that is basically lost to time. All we know is that between when for a lot of things, between when it was first added to the star map and where we are now, changes occurred and we don't know why. And so with what Naz is doing, is he can go back and track those changes and add in the update, so that way we have not only how it was initially, when it changed, and then we can, if we want to, we can ask for context, because that's what we do here at Pathfinders. Is we're like, we're charting all the, and I have my beer now, so nebulous
Yeah, and
information
charting.
surrounding
This
the
is
develop.
this is me charting, like charting time.
Because I will say, and I gave Paul shit for this in one of his more recent videos, and he's one of the things about me that drives him absolutely nuts. Is because he disagrees with me completely, but he says that, has said multiple times that the Arc Star map hasn't been updated since it was released. Yes, it was. We have proof.
Yes, it was.
It's been changed a fuck ton, a lot, and changes, and the changes are not insignificant. Like, I have a big old spreadsheet that just shows all the changes in just star system
It's
sizes.
so interesting. And that's I should also that's a good point. I should also start updating these with a link to the star map, because you can link to specific places.
Oh yeah, yep.
I should actually put them in. Good idea. Because I have the Galactic Guide, the Lore Maker's Guide, the Comlink, and the Galactopedia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's also inconsistent. Sometimes I say it's Comlink, sometimes I just name it, and you'll just know it's not Galactopedia, it's something else. This is also not capitalized, and I'm very annoyed at that right now. But yeah, I can also note the map position. What was I gonna say?
And that's another thing that's hard to. Why what you're doing is great, because, sorry, you've got the bit from the Galactopedia, you've got the original Comlink, because that's how. Sorry, it's good beer. How all the how so much of the lore has come out. Mother trucker, has been in Comlinks, and
Yeah.
but the Comlinks are far, a lot of things in the Comlinks are far more detailed, or the stuff in jump points. Those articles are far more detailed. The Galactopedia is just, yeah.
This one came out September 9th, 2012.
Yeah. The Galactopedia is, for the most part, small, short articles. It's mostly just little summaries. And so a lot of people think, well, oh, it's not in the Galactopedia, it's not official anymore. It's like, yes, it is still official.
No, they just haven't gotten to it.
If the stuff in the unless the thing in the Galactopedia directly contradicts what was in the original Comlink, for the same subject, it's all pertinent and accurate information, because the Comlink is still there. They didn't delete it, didn't go away. It's just, here's your little blurb summary for this. It's what you will, because it's eventually going to be in game for you to see, but you don't want a giant wall of text in game. You want a little blurb that you can read and get the gist of the information. If you want to go read more, then go to the website. But that's why I think this is such a great tool, because it's A, visual, and B, it's trackable, and C, it provides context for, by
like
doing
Blizzard
those
said,
things.
like if it's on the Galactopedia, it's like concrete. They're not putting stuff on the Galactopedia that they maybe not sure of or might change in the future. What's on there is concrete. It is there. So
yeah, and it is the most
that's another
current.
reason why I wanted both of as far as I can get them both of the articles, because we have the historic and we have the definite.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely want as much as I can, I still want it up. I still want it to come back up. And I want to read
That's
the
so
stupid
weird that it's
Galactopedia
down.
post about
Cass Aerospace.
Cassie. Yeah.
I think it's Cass. I'm not sure. Casse.
I don't know if the E sign, but anyway, they were a Forsyth engineer who made a company, crashed the company, and then their product became the Hurricane. Or they made the Hurricane, and then it sold it to a company, and then it became Anvil's Hurricane. So I want to know the story. So, but that's like again one of the nice things. But you can see, hey, that ended soon. What happened to the thing? Go talk, see what they did. Oh, they did the Hurricane. But Arrow's over here, or Anvil's over here. How did they get that? So you go and talk about that and see if their thing has that. And also I'll have all of the posts about all of the spaceships and when they were introduced. So there's going to be a Hurricane over here and a Hurricane over here. It's going to be so cool. And hopefully I can find references to each mark of the constellation. That'll be a great achievement for me. Because we're on what, Mark 4 now?
Oh, yeah.
I believe we're on Mark 4.
I think that's right. Yep.
Yeah. So let's see. Where is the one that took me a minute to track down? The end of the Messer era and the death of Linton Messer the 11th. All right. This one was fun because the death is only mentioned, as far as I can tell, in this Q&A for lore makers. In the original article, it said they captured him. Never did it say so. Here, the Massacre of Garon. It says that they have him. Yeah, they have captured the Emperor, but nowhere does it say he died. Not until the where to go?
I always get the names confused. That's the one where his kids are the ones that overthrew him, right at the end.
No, this is the brother of Fiona. He overthrew his dad.
Yeah, okay. Fiona was the one that we think.
Fiona's the one that escaped, and we had no idea where she went.
Mm-hmm.
She could have been plotting a new Messer era, which is probable at this point.
It's the figurehead for Xenothreat. I believe it.
Well, her kids could be. I mean, it's over like 100 and something years now.
Or they froze her.
Or they froze her. That is.
They turned her into
possible.
a Messer popsicle.
That is possible. So where does it say? Messer family. Okay, so somewhere it says in here specifically that he was killed. That killed. Yes, they killed the brother. Yeah, no, yeah. Definitely says he was killed. Fiona disappeared and he was killed. So, this is the article that I point to when I say that he was killed. Not he was captured, he was killed. So, not that article. Bloop, 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 this one. Is going to be referenced a lot because there's stuff in here for merits and prison stuff and just, what is it? Terra, aliens, video critique of lore, like there's Tavarin, Second Tavarin War, like there's a lot of stuff in here. So this is going to be just a reference for a ton of stuff. Also, they like using that picture. So, and this is not even like a normal post. One, this is also a modern post, so it's a lot harder to find modern posts in the comlink because they show up differently. They're not as easily searchable. Because
oh gosh, that drives me nuts.
Oh,
I've been meaning to ask Jake about that.
They don't have the referral thing at the bottom, which
the scroll
makes
bar
me go insane.
Yeah,
because if you
go to the previous here, of this,
this is the worst part of this job. Because I can't say, oh, let me go to the next lore makers community question. It's not there. I want to do that with. Like, the newer roadmaps aren't there, or the concept sales stuff isn't there. None of the modern, the nice-looking posts that they do like this that look like this, not like this background.
Yeah, you can't
if it has this
navigate
kind of a
through them
background-
sequentially.
Oh, worst part about this job is trying to find that. But anyway, that is the ultimate Star Citizen timeline in the works. What we have, and that is the work that I've given myself. A little sneak peek behind the curtain. This is what it used to look like. Everything's still here. I still have the different categories, but the problem is this is all like manually placed. So I got like a ton of stuff wrong. I never actually finished a couple of different things. Where was it? I have 2 things in here with the same date, though they're like years apart from each other. I think it was 27. Oh, here we go. 2599. Both the founding and closure happened apparently in the same year, according to these bubbles. Except they're definitely not in the same year. So it's set up very similar, except this is just a whiteboard. That's all it says. And I had to manually like draw every line, and it was bad. The only thing that this has that I wish that
So you're saying you used a tool in order to get the job done faster. You developed tools.
I didn't
Weird.
develop, I found one.
Even
the
better.
thing that I wish it, yeah, much. This is why we're Gen 12 and Vulcan. That I wish Tiki Taki had was lined to the specific date, specific year. It doesn't have those. Yeah, just there's. I mean, that has like little dashes, but not down to the bottom. It's just something I wish they had, but don't really. So there is the timeline, and this also was able to have all the pre-modern stuff. So that is the timeline, and I'll have to update it at least once a year with the new "You Are Here" sign. Like, this is actually, for new players, this is actually a big point right here. Like, I should probably like call it like current year or something, just so people understand. Let's spell current. Current year. There we go. And it's only like what 3 months till I have to update that to move it a year. But that's fun. All right, that has been the roadmap. I hope you guys enjoy. This will be posted time and time again throughout here. I will probably actually post it a bunch of places now, in a whole bunch of Discords. Let's go with.
I was gonna say, why don't you go ahead and put it in the Pathfinders discussion section in my Discord, and I'll pin it.
All right, Pathfinder discussion. Yurt. There you go.
Yeet.
Stick in mine in the Star Citizen text channel, which I've lost somewhere. Where'd it go? Star Citizen news, Star Citizen tech. Yoink. Come on, go over it. Thank you. Star Citizen. Now. Announcing a new Star Citizen Ultimate Timeline. Hey, copy. Thank you. Star Citizen Ultimate Timeline.
While you're doing that, I just want to remind the people that we have listening live and in chat for Spectrum Pulse this evening. We are doing our first live Q&A, Ask Us Anything, not AMA, because there's 2 of us, so it's us.
We are.
So
one.
if you have, yeah, we are not one. I'm an individual, damn it. But yeah, so if you have questions about anything, it's Ask Us Anything. So it doesn't have to be about Star Citizen. Probably should be about Star Citizen. But if you want to ask anything, we are going to be open to questions. We'll be answering questions. If you ask us something about Star Citizen and its development, we'll do it. We will do it. Do what we do live. We will look it up and we'll find some answers. We'll drop links in the chat and in Discord. But basically, if you want to ask us questions about development, we can show you live what our process looks like and how we go about doing these things. But yeah, it's an image with. Oh my gosh. That's
because it's his kid and he's reporting. It's
okay. So I'm gonna
Alright.
need you to right click, download, save image as, and put in my Discord.
Got it.
Gonna make that. I need to make that like my new background for some sort of Star Citizen content that I'm gonna do. Yeah, it's fate and
fate.
dinner. Although, is that an orange? I don't think it's a red.
There's a
I'm
dark
not.
red in there.
Is there?
That's more of an orangey, but that's like a brown. I don't know. It shows a red
Yeah.
on yellow, so if it's not, if that's a constellation,
Not my favorite colors. I mean, I'd eat them, but
I'd eat 'em.
yeah. I used to think the blue was blueberry, and no, it's actually huckleberry. Huckleberry is the best berry because I live in Idaho
Okay.
now. Oh, but yeah. So if you have questions, throw them up in chat, or if you're in Discord, you can, um, drop them in SC discussion and tag me. All Tree can see is a meal, snacks. But we will
Which
answer questions
is that
at the.
why the thumbnails for the show are in almost what could be like it's kind of like a cursive. You should definitely start doing them in Comic Sans with like a crayon
Ooh,
thing.
that's a good
You
idea.
could
I
make
just
that a
picked that
thing.
font because it looked cool. But
You
yeah, I
should
could
you should like
that could
go
definitely be
much
a thing.
harder into the crayon side.
Yeah, the red crayon font for sure.
Yep.
And written by fist, not with your fingers.
Okay, so not Comic Sans. You want like a like
Yeah,
chalk almost look.
the the Calvin and Hobbes handwriting, but crayon. And I am not I am not paid. I do not receive any money. But whenever I am drinking beer while we're doing the podcast, because it's my thing, I always try to buy a couple beers for the podcast that are space related. So this evening, I am drinking. Tilt the other way. Ecliptic Phaser Hazy IPA. It's a
Why why do I look at that and all I see is Han Solo. I don't know why.
But I think it's cool because it's ecliptic, and it's got like the
Solar system map.
solar system map with the orbits, and there's like a star field on the back, and set phasers is stun, all that. But it's pretty good. Not gonna lie. It was there was I did open it, and then it had a little bit of foam at the top, like it instantly foamed a bit, and so it made it difficult to get a good pour. But it's not a bad beer.
Spear. Just expected launch torpedoes.
Yeah, launch torpedoes. Yeah, if it was Eclipse beer, it would definitely sneak up on you, and then all of a sudden knock you down.
I hope torpedo boats get better.
Yeah,
in Star Citizen.
Soon TM.
Yeah. Like, it's not that I want to drive one, or that I own one, or that I will ever own one, except for the Polaris. I just want them to be a thing. Like, having any combat be solved with a Hurricane or Scorpius, and bombs, basically. Those are your base, those are your end alls. And they've said so many times, that they don't want this is the answer to this genre of task. They want a answer to a specific task. So, if 9 times out of 10, Scorpius beats everything in flight combat, whether that be fighter to fighter or fighter to medium ship or fighter to large ship, there needs to be a way a single seat fighter can get an edge on a Hurricane. A way, at least one way, to make it that one time the better option to fly a single seater. Something. All right, that's it. I'm gonna stop ranting. It's your turn. Go ahead.
Ghost 18,000 or 1800. I want innovative solutions to be possible. Tractor a small asteroid behind you to smash into a pursuer or something. And now I'm thinking Mario Kart. Like a what would be the space equivalent of a banana peel?
Drop the cargo.
Coming after you, and it just makes them spin
drop the cargo
out.
door. Yeah, drop the cargo door and vaporize some gases.
Mm-hmm. Well, cool. Next, Naz, thanks for updating us. Well, I mean, this is first
Pico
everyone
Shell.
else has seen of it. I've seen it before, but ooh, yeah, Pico shell, or yeah, what a Xian shell. Yeah,
Oh no!
where's the rest of them?
I will hire an NPC, Xian, and I will nickname him Koopa.
But yeah, thanks for being willing to show that off and everything, and I really like what you've got going on with your timeline. It's coming along really well. I think it's a pretty awesome tool, especially because you and I are both big fans of the lore, and while neither of
And
us is Paul or
I,
Algorid, we do use it a lot in what we do here on the podcast. So
I don't exactly know if I'm getting your name right, but Brunny? Every time I see your name, I think Bunny, so I'm just Bunny. Anyway, thank you for calling it useful. Thanks for
Brunnan
sharing it.
G reminds me of
Brunny.
something. I think it was in the game X3. I remember an NPC saying something that sounded like that, and that's all I can hear in my head is the little sound bite.
Sure, yep.
Yep. Well, yeah.
This
So
was also stupid obscure. I'm sorry. This was stupid obscure. This was like half of a sentence in the middle of this stupid newsletter. It's like, oh yeah, by the start of the second nuclear age, we were doing this stuff. It's just like, what do you mean?
where'd that come from?
Yeah, okay, I'll stop. I'll stop. Endless gems in here. Endless gems.
So my scanner anomaly this evening, and I went with a clickbaity title just because feed the
Clickbait, yeah.
algorithm, that sort of stuff. Clickbait gets people to watch. Um, but I, the for about a year now, people have been reiterating things that were said about development resources being shifted towards Squadron 42. And I have noticed that a lot of people have taken taken what was said and what has occurred wildly out of context. And a lot of people have basically just used Squadron 42 as a scapegoat for Star Citizen's development, even more so recently. And yeah, there are a lot of things being worked on for Squadron that are Squadron specific. Yeah, gamers taking things out of context, shocking. Yeah,
And it's funny that
however could that
people
happen?
like saying, "Oh, the Star Citizen is being, trailed behind because of Squadron." Squadron came first, guys.
Yeah. Well, so it's part of it is a lot of people, and it's not just gamers, but a lot of people don't want to read. Reading takes time and and effort, and everybody's busy. Like I know I'm busy as hell. I just read a lot because I've always read a lot. It's just how it's one of the ways that I sort of escape. And my mom was a librarian, so I grew up in a library. It is what it is. Um, but so if you don't read the actual information, and if your mind isn't trained to, when you read something, not interpret with your own bias, it's an active process to read without bias. And so if you are getting the information secondhand, a lot of times, and this is not there's so many great content creators out there who put out great content, but what they do is, a lot of times they're not reading things word for word, and even if they're not doing it on purpose, when they make content and put the, and say things on their content, um, they are, it does go through a bias filter, no matter how much effort they put in to be impartial and accurate. um, Things do get filtered when you paraphrase. It just happens. um, so that's why when we're doing the Pathfinders, we include show notes for when we are we post things to YouTube, so that way you can see that, hey, not only did I read verbatim for you what this says, I put in my 2 cents afterwards, but you can go back and read it yourself. Here's a link. That's because we want to be accurate and allow you to read it for yourself and come up with your own thoughts and ideas, especially if you want to share them with us, because you know we've only got two brains on here right now. um, not counting chat, however many we have in chat, but it's just Nazareth and I, so we can't cover everything. But if you
Chat
what
is
has
the only one.
happened, yeah,
Chat is the hive mind.
yeah, chat is the hive mind. um,
That's not
but
true.
but yeah, so the what has occurred is things have been said in shorthand format about how some teams within CIG have been reprioritized towards Squadron 42. Del Kenobi, welcome. Thanks for joining us this evening. Oh seven, sir, or ma'am, or whatever you go by.
Entity.
Yes, ethereal entity. Simplify and anchors away. Ira. Um, but yeah, so the statements about what has gone on with CIG's development teams and some of them, having their being reprioritized towards Squadron 42 has been taken wildly out of context. And a lot of people just seem to think that everybody is working on Squadron 42, no one is working on Star Citizen, um, and that's why we're in this content trap. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And I'm going to show you why. Because we're going to go through the original posts. It started with a video, and we're not going to watch the whole video. If you want to go back and read it, but then we'll go through the posts and the different roadmap roundups that clarified what was said and showed us, told us exactly what would be occurring. And then we're going to look at the progress tracker for these various teams and see what it is they're actually working on. And so that way you can see and for yourself and recognize that they're not working on Squadron 42 specific anything. They're working on things that are is very that are needed for Squadron 42, and they're trying to get Squadron 42 out the door, which is why they're prioritized on them. But there are things that are fundamentally, they're fundamentally important for Star Citizen, because Star Citizen and Squadron 42 are the same game. It's the same engine, the same code, all the things. There's even a version of PES in Squadron 42. Squadron 42 uses uses a single player version of the entity graph that PES is dependent on. Squadron 42 uses a version. It uses all sorts of pieces um, of server meshing and persistence in order to work. And the reason it has to do that is because the two games share the same code, and that's why everything that's being built for Squadron 42, it takes a little bit of time to get brought over to Star Citizen, but it's more okay. How do we, we have to tie this in with the fact that this is a live game and other people see it, but the base function of all these things, it works in both games. So let's get into it, and I need to let's see, change this for this one and big and C. Ooh, no, big and C. This one. Whoa. Stop. There we go.
All right. The things.
So we're going to create a little timeline here, folks.
What? So more timelines?
More timelines. We have to go back. So on September 23rd, 2021, Star Citizen Live, Jared Huckabee and Richard Tyrer, who we know so well from the other week on CitizenCon, had a 50-minute long episode and Richard did what he does. He ranted a lot. He goes off. And a lot of it's really good information, but it's one of those things where most people wait for Nubifier to summarize it for us. And that's, not blaming Nubifier, but the summaries of all these things and people, taking it into shorthand is how this, we've gotten that telephone game going where the end message is different than the beginning message because you didn't get it directly from the source. It was, it became less clear down the line. So in this episode, they talked about, Star Citizen's gameplay and features, the development of Star Citizen, the development of Squadron 42, because Richard Tyrer has been, a lot of what he works on with the teams that he leads is for, stuff for, Squadron 42 right now, because that's the, it is the focus. They're trying to get it out.
It's the game with an end goal.
Yeah. But one of the big things that they talked about was how development resources were being reallocated towards Squadron 42 in order to bring into the game features that are needed for Squadron 42 to release. Those features are essential to Star Citizen, but it wasn't. They weren't going to be working on things like science gameplay, um, or certain aspects of exploration, or more things like refining, that are important for Star Citizen but are not part of Squadron 42. And so that's why they talked about the development of the features, changes to the release structure, because what has gone on is that things are still being developed for Star Citizen, but they're being made for Squadron 42 first and then ported over. And so when we see them in the Ghost 1800, probably for the best. Science gameplay equals explosive gameplay for some of us. Yes. Let's see what happens when I pour this in here. Gone. And there's a happy little crater where that science module was plunked down on that moon in the Odin system. But it's see, and I just lost my train of thought. My Argo tram, it just got derailed. But that's why. So we are on the cusp of getting. Yeah, did someone say Endeavor? Shh! Don't tell John Crew. We don't want to upset him. Um, the we're about to get hull scraping for salvage. Tier 0 salvage is hull scraping. The reason we're getting it right now is partly because they're finally getting persistence done, and because it's built on top of persistence, it utilizes the persistence structure in order to work. We're also getting it because hull scraping is needed for Squadron 42. We don't know exactly how. You can theorize. It's probably pretty safe to say that you might have a little multi-tool in your ship, and you might need to patch some holes on the fly on this multi-part mission. But it is part of Squadron 42, and I'll show you that here in a second. There are other things like the inventory system, medical gameplay. These sorts of things have all been worked on and released into Star Citizen shortly after being developed for Squadron 42, since this change occurred. And so these people are like, oh, okay, well, they're developing for Squadron 42, and yeah, we'll see it 2 or 3 years down the line. No, we won't. They finish it, and then we have a team specifically designed and built for taking these features, because it's actor feature team, vehicle feature team, that sort of things, weapon content team. The USPU, United States Persistent Universe uh, team is specifically there in order to take these features that are made, and then incorporate them in the PU. And so all they have to do is a little bit of extra legwork to take what is made for Squadron 42 after they've made it for Squadron 42's purposes, and bring it over to the Persistent Universe. Salvage, it has been delayed many times, and up until this year, it was delayed because of persistence. It was delayed because, hey, we want to do this and we can't do it yet because persistence doesn't give us, the full functionality that we need in order to do salvage right. Well, this year, this year now, the salvage work, the work in order to make salvage, function in game has been done for months. It has been done for months. And then what they did is they took that work, they applied it to ships, and now the only thing they've been waiting on really has been persistence to get its shit together, so that way it can be in game. They showed us how hull scraping works months ago by hand, like early this year, and that was all that they needed for Squadron 42. And they took that same tech, upscaled it to ships, the Vulture and the Reclaimer, and the people doing that work are the same people who incorporate all the other features into the game. That's how this process works. And then they're moving on to hull munching. And so not only is not only did they get reprioritized on a Squadron 42, but once they get done with what they need to do for Squadron 42, they're moving on to features that are needed for the persistent universe, not for Squadron 42. So we're not going to watch this video, but if you want to go back and watch it, um, you know, rewatch multiple segments in here. It's good information. It's just one of those things where it's Richard Tyrer, and you got to watch it like 3 or 4 times, or watch, or reverse and rewatch certain parts of it multiple times in order to really glean the information. So let's move on to the next part. So here's the roadmap roundup from September 8th, 2021. So September 3rd to September 8th. We're moving along in the timeline. So up at the top, so roadmap roundup. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Every 2 weeks, we accompany the roadmap roundup with a brief explanatory note to give you insight. Insights are important. Oh man. Into the decision making that led to any changes. This is part of an effort to make our communications more transparent, more specific, and more insightful for all of you who helped to make Star Citizen Squadron 42 possible. There's a big reason that Naz always reads these notes at the beginning of when we go through the roadmap roundups, because these insights are important, and many content creators skim right over these and go straight to the meat and potatoes down here at the bottom. And so people think that, oh, CIG doesn't care, blah, blah, blah. They do care. They tell you straight up, but you didn't read it. You had somebody else paraphrase for you. So you can do both, people. I'm just saying.
Yeah, like we do with the monthly reports. Like we paraphrase, but we also cover everything.
Yeah. So last week on Star Citizen Live, what I just showed you, Richard Tyrer outlined a few changes that are coming into the core gameplay pillars release cadence. Check the episode out if you haven't. There's even a link. And the links for all these things that we're looking at are going to be in the show notes when this video gets posted to YouTube. It'll be in the description. To summarize, the core gameplay teams: actor feature, actor tech, weapon feature, and weapon content. 4 teams. Just 4. So far, just 4. We'll get to more. But the core gameplay teams are shifting their focus to delivering their features for Squadron 42 first, before they are then released to the persistent universe. This has a twofold benefit. Squadron 42 will benefit greatly from the additional resources, and the persistent universe will see features in a more complete state. This does, however, make an impact to the release view of the roadmap. While some features may shift, it's important to remember that you can track progress of any given feature on the progress tracker, which will remain unchanged. In addition, with this publish, we are also adding to the column, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so initially, only these 4 teams are changed. And all they're doing is shifting their focus to delivering features for Squadron 42 first. Well, people took that as, oh, okay, it's Squadron 42. It's just for Squadron. No. Almost nothing that these teams have been working on for the past 2 years is Squadron 42 specific. In fact, there are more things that these 4 teams, and the other ones that we'll get to here in a second in the next post, there are more things that these 4 teams are still working on that is actually PU specific than there are things that are Squadron specific. There are Squadron specific teams. These are not them. A lot of the Squadron specific work has been stuff like cinematics. There's been Squadron specific locations that'll eventually be in the PU, but that's not these teams. These teams are working on things that apply to both. They are gameplay features that they need to get in the game in order to release Squadron. But as soon as they get them into the game for Squadron, they're fairly easy to get ported over, and generally they get ported over within a patch or 2, like a quarter. So let's move on to the next post. Moving farther down the timeline. Wow, look at the difference between this roadmap roundup and this one. Weird. But this one has these. I want these back. Nazeris and I need these. Makes our lives so much easier.
Make it happen.
Please, Jake. But yeah, they're not there here. Why did that have to go away?
I know he's not the lord of the website, but Jake, please.
So this is all turbulence work.
Who needs it?
The change of the design of the star map, the website. This is all turbulence work, and this is the only thing that Turbulent. It looks good. It looks better. It's just this is the only thing that Turbulent is doing that isn't, perfect. Like their teams for the PU. But so this roadmap roundup was in April. So this is only 6 months ago, April 27th, 2022. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Every 2 weeks, and here's this message again. In order to be, this part message is almost always the same. But again, we accompany the roadmap update with a brief explanatory note to give you insight into the decision making that led to any changes. This is part of an effort to make our communications more transparent, more specific, and more insightful for all of you who helped to make Star Citizen and Squadron 42 possible. With that said, let's go ahead and dive into this week's roadmap. CIG Community Team. Notable changes. For April 27th, 2022. Progress tracker. With this published, we're adding additional Q2 2022 deliverables for downstream teams, blah, blah, blah. This is the meat and potatoes for this one. Vehicle tech team. Before I continue, gotta wet my whistle with some phaser. Ghost 1800 says hull scraping. Space barnacles when? We are supposed to harvest off the backs of storm walls.
Yeah, so confirmed already.
Yeah. Yeah. So some sort of space barnacles. Not sure what they'll be. Are they edible? Are they a delicacy on Orison? I don't know. So the vehicle tech team. We've transitioned work on Arena Commander, Star Marine, and Theaters of War from Fire Sprite to the internal vehicle tech team. This team is now named the Arena Commander feature team. We'll have additional deliverables added to their schedule as they go. So the Arena Commander feature team is much like the USPU gameplay feature team in that they implement new features and new tech into that is being made by other teams into Arena Commander. And when they say Arena Commander, they're talking all the multiplayer modes. So this is, just like what they do is just like with the USPU gameplay feature team. And I think we have an EU.
I imagine, Blizzard, that Stormwall's skin is incredibly thick and durable. So, generally how it
goes. Let's see. So, but that's the vehicle tech team got reoriented to Arena Commander. Well, vehicle feature and vehicle experience. With this published, the vehicle experience team is merging with the vehicle feature team, including all of their deliverables. The reason for this is twofold. First, this allows for greater streamlining of production for these two teams. Second, the vehicle feature team is now having all its feature direction driven by Squadron 42's requirements. Deliverables worked on by this newly merged team will now follow a similar cadence to the core gameplay pillar, the ones we talked about before, and that features will be made for Squadron 42 first and then being ported to the persistent universe. So they are working on things that are needed in order to get Squadron 42 out the door, but are then ported directly over to the PU. There isn't some magical delay or anything like that. It's the same. It's literally the same as what they were doing before. It's just that they are working on things needed for Squadron 42 rather than anything PU specific. So the process by which things get into the PU is the same. Features and tech are made in order to be implemented by gameplay teams. Arena Commander feature team, the USPU gameplay feature team, that has not changed, except for they are making features and features and assets and tech for Squadron 40 that are needed for Squadron 42 and then porting them over to the PU. There are other teams that are still working on things that are PU specific. That hasn't gone away. So it just, all you got to do is look at the progress tracker and the answers are all there at your fingertips. The UI feature team, similar to the above, what we just read, the UI feature team has been renamed to the Squadron 42 UI feature team. This team now falls under the core gameplay pillar, what we were talking about in the previous post, and will also follow a similar cadence as outlined for the vehicle feature team. So there's what they're doing for the UI. That UI feature team is taking tech that is made by the UI tech team and turning it into features, but they are making the features that are needed for Squadron 42 first, and then those features get ported over to the PU. This includes um, uh, the the new radar and star map. Thank God. But those things got,
Mobiglass.
yeah, and the Moby Glass. Um, Super important. And they are in the progress of being made right now. And Jared has said, and so has I think Xylo too, has said, "Oh my gosh, it looks so good. We can't wait to show it to you," because they're going to be showing it to us, as it's getting ready for release. We don't know when it's going to be getting ready for release, but they've been working on it for quite a while now because it is needed for Squadron 42. They have to get it into Squadron 42 so Squadron 42 can actually release. But once they've got it in and the QA teams with Squadron 42, go through and check out all the bugs and everything, they sign off on it. Sweet. It's good to go. It's done. The UI feature team will move on to their next task, and then that feature will then be ported over to the ported over to the PU. So let's take a look at these teams that, wait a minute, they're only working on Squadron 42. Let's take a look and find out. So the first one from the core gameplay pillar is the actor feature team. And so I've set up the progress tracker for each one of these teams to start back when that statement was first made in September of 2021. And let's look and see what they are working on that is Squadron 42 specific. One thing, mop and bucket. The janitor. One thing. An animator and an engineer have done a short sprint, 2 short sprints on getting the mop and bucket, enabling support for AI janitors to use multiple tools in either hand. Because we know that there's janitors on the ship. We've seen them in, I think it was the Moro tour, right?
Yep.
That is the only thing that is Squadron 42 specific. Out of everything, the actor feature team is work. Oh, and character work. Sorry, my apologies. Yeah. So I imagine this would be stuff for different NPCs. But very few resources are being dedicated by the actor feature team solely to Squadron 42. What they are working on is the cargo factor. The actor feature team has been working on the cargo factor because players will handle the new cargo containers and everything. They are working on Mantle Tier 2 because that Mantle Tier 1 was already put into the game, and so they're working on Mantle Tier 2. They have helped with persistent streaming, persistence and server meshing. They worked on mining gadgets, which was PU specific, not Squadron 42, but everything else is things that are used in both games. They worked on the inventory, um, cooperative locomotion, the new EVA system. They've been working on that forever, but you EVA in both games, so it takes it's work for both. Actor status tier 2, which is huge, really important, and that is being made for Squadron 42 as well as the PU. And that's one of those systems where it's not some conversion between Squadron 42 or the PU. It's here's the system, it's in, you port it over, it works. It's not a separate thing. It's are you able to take multiple bites of your sandwich? Yes. Congrats. Medical insurance is part of actor status tier 2. Probably not even part of the Squadron 42 part, but there are aspects of this that are part of in Squadron 42. And once they get done with the Squadron 42 part, they move on to the other aspects that are needed for Star Citizen. So we can see just by looking at the progress tracker that everything that the actor feature team is working on, is predominantly shared features. These are things that will be ported over to the persistent universe in short order. The player interaction experience, thank goodness, that's going to be getting that's getting worked on. We definitely need that. But the player interaction experience, this is all that stuff that they showed off at the end of CitizenCon, with Richard Tyrer and Chris Roberts, with the new HUD elements, this is part of that. How you interact with things. That's what they're working on. You can see them working on it right now. It's being implemented into Squadron 42, and then it will be ported over to the PU shortly thereafter. So let's move on to the next team, the actor tech team. Smaller team, still important. Huh. I don't see anything here that's Squadron 42 specific. Am I missing anything, Nazarus? Sorry, I'm being sarcastic because I've seen these statements of, oh well, everything 90% of CIG is working on Squadron 42, and that's why we're on this content drought. Nothing's being worked on for the PU, and that's an out and out lie, and it frustrates the hell out of me because you can look at all these things and like, well, wait a minute, are we not handling weapons in the PU?
Yeah.
Is that work just going to go into Squadron and never make it over to the PU? No, it's a giant and wholly inaccurate misnomer.
It's the people who say that also like live and die on free play like content updates every week crappy games. Like we're not in a content drought. We have plenty of content. We're in a week of events right now, a couple weeks of events. And the only thing we're lacking is updates and releases of content, new content. We have content.
Yeah.
But that's all because there's major tech. It's alpha.
Yeah, we've got major tech hurdles that we're still overcoming, but these are a ton of little things that they don't get. If people think, oh well, there's no new content, and all these things, like a lot of these things get added into the release view at the very end, and people don't take notice, or they don't even show up at all because it's like, oh okay, well it's a little thing, but it's still something that people worked on as part of this team, and it's something that's for Squadron and the PU, but I don't think let's go move up to towards the end. Oh, also, so this is the actor tech team is a downstream team, and so they only get their schedule like a quarter out in advance, if I remember correctly. And so here's where their work ends, and we're waiting on the newest roadmap update to show us what their sprints are going to look like for quarter 4. But you can see, as of just a few weeks ago, they were working on EVA Tier 2, which they showed us at CitizenCon. When that system is done, it will be ported right over to the PU. Space and EVA is no different. Pardon me. No different in Squadron 42 than it is in the PU. This, maybe this sprint will get elongated because there's more work to do, more polishing, blah blah blah. But once it's done, once it is in Squadron, it will be a priority to implement into the PU. But after that, 0G push and pull, same thing that they just showed us. That is what the tech team is really working on. The lean over cover thing, they talked about NPCs using that. So that will be a function that we will have, eventually. It might create a little bit of a backlog because there's so much work going on, and the gameplay feature team will be implementing it as they can based off of priorities. But there's all this work is occurring, and it will get into the PU. It might take a quarter, it might take 2 quarters. Some things might even take a little bit longer, but it's still occurring. It's still work that is part of the PU just as much as it's part of Squadron 42. They're just getting the single player implementation done first. And the single player implementation isn't all that different than the persistent universe implementation. Next team, weapon content team. All sorts of cool bang bang stuff. So way back to Q3 2021. And okay, so character work again. Enemy characters. Cool. So this is probably like the Screaming Galsons, maybe some of their things. The military multi-tool. So it's a multi-tool, but in olive drab. I want one. It's a variant, so that's cool that there's actually going to be a thing. Oh, look at all that work that was only Squadron 42 specific. How dare they? Yeah, Brennan G. I'm going to need some of those janitors on my Odyssey. Yeah, when I eventually get my LHD in game and I've got a bunch of Marines running around on it, we're definitely going to need some damn janitors because, yeah. And that reminds me, I uploaded emojis for my Twitch, and I don't know how to use them. And I don't see a thing for me for my emojis on the emotes. Does anyone know how to make that work?
I do not.
Because it shows me
I mean, they're
the people
not
that I follow and
there.
theirs.
You may have uploaded them, but you may not have engaged them.
Maybe I'll have to look at that. Um, but yeah, there all these things. There's very few things that are Squadron 42 specific. There's actually more things that are PU specific than Squadron 42 specific. Vehicle tractor beams. They did that work, and there's supposed to be more. Um, Weird. There was more. I don't know where it went. But yeah, there's a lot of things that are PU specific. I think this one might have been an error, but who knows? But the Volt weapons, it's you can look at these things and you're like, how all of these things are things that are needed for both. You're going to be using them. They're not specific. Um, I find it interesting that the Grey Cat industrial salvage and tractor tools are in Squadron, or apparently needed for Squadron, but they're a priority, and we should be seeing those in 318 in order to, we saw the salvage one on the back of the character when they're showing off the hand scraping. But again, nothing on here. There's almost nothing on here that is Squadron 42 specific, and there's more things that are PU specific. Interestingly enough, when they did bombs, you know, not Squadron. So we don't bomb anyone in Squadron? Weird. Weapon feature team. Again, all sorts of things that most of which, the only specific things are PU specific. Space mines, Nautilus Wen, CIG. But the inventory system, it's work that, there's a lot of things, examples on here that are things that they were working, after they got switched over, that they worked on, that has since made it into the PU. They made it, because they needed to make it for Squadron 42, but now it's already made it over into the PU. Another thing that's really exciting that we're looking forward to and probably will be announced very soon and will be getting shown more is hacking, needed for Squadron 42. But they've already shown what the work for it, for ISC. Since they were this team was focused, was realigned to focus on the Squadron 42. Vehicle feature team, again, they're working on things that this one has 9 engineers and 2 designers, a good amount of people working part-time on Squadron 42 vehicle support. So things that are needed for Squadron 42 vehicles, that is specific to Squadron 42. Most likely this is things for NPC vehicles, some of those bespoke looking things that we've seen. But the rest of the work, they're the ones, the vehicle feature team, they're the ones that have been working on the updated quantum travel experience that we saw as part of CitizenCon. So they're still doing work that is PU specific. They're working on the MFDs, needed for Squadron. They got to get those updated for Squadron. They show them, have been show them off to us, but it's also part of the PU, and there's nothing specific about Squadron that needs to change for those to get implemented in the PU. That's those are easy updates, easy additions to the PU. Jump points needed for Squadron. They're working on them because they need them for Squadron. We also need them for 4.0, but it's also a priority for Squadron. Interestingly enough, the game isn't just in the Odin system, but they, a lot of engineers working on the tech for jump points for everything that goes in them. They're working on the aerodynamic control surfaces, which is actually a PU specific thing, ironically enough. Um, Maybe in Squadron, we don't go flying around in atmosphere on planets with an atmosphere where the aerodynamic control surfaces are needed. Who knows? Um, yeah. Moving on, we've only got a couple more. The UI feature team. The UI teams. This one, the UI teams are ones that Nazeris and I are very excited about because the work they're doing is just beautiful and so much more functional than what we have now. But going down through here, not a single thing from the UI feature team is Squadron 42 specific. They made the salvage tier 0 UI because they needed to get it for Squadron, but it's also in the PU, and we've already seen it. It's going to be in game soon. The map and radar system rework. Oh man, I can't wait to see that. Definitely needed for Squadron. They're working on it. Have been working on it since before this, because this is they reorganized the teams, but sorry, this is back in 2021, but they've been working on the map and radar system rework since before Q2 2021, and they're still working on it, and we should be seeing it soon. But it'll get implemented into Squadron and then ported over to the PU. But yeah, and the squad. Oh yeah, so the UI feature team became the Squadron 42 UI feature team. And here's what it looks like in current times, since it got changed in April. And so they had a few things added. They needed some specific UI for chapter 1, a couple of artists, on chapter 1 and chapter 4, and on the character creator for Squadron 42, because that is probably going to be a bit different than what we end up using in the PU. And then maybe some, bespoke UI for the chemline facility. But everything else is things that are for both. New UI for door airlocks and light panels. Again, the map and radar system rework continuing on. Nearly done. The MFD rework, Mobilglass rework, all these things that it's, oh, well, you get a specific UI or a specific Mobilglass. No. It's the same thing. There might be a few slight changes to the differences, but they're building the two versions side by side because they have to share the same code, and it's all being used in the same game. Yeah, Brennan G, I can't even explain how excited I am for a UI and MFD update. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's the I mean, this is a bad analogy, but it's like looking at the new aspects of the website versus the old aspects of the website. This looks so much better than this. But more importantly, the new stuff is going to have so much more functionality and be so much more stable and more performant.
And stay where you put
it. Yeah, and actually work. Yeah, it's unreasonable for how excited I am for new UI and MFD. Yep. Yeah, we share the same sentiment, my friends. We're all in the same boat, and it's it is soon TM without the sarcasm, because of how far along and how long they've been working on it. Those the map and radar system rework and the MFD reworks, and the Mobilglass rework have been in progress for quite some time, and we've seen a lot of it, and we're going to see more of it over the next quarter or two. But these are the things that I can totally see getting ported over, not in 3.18 but 3.19 and 4.0 for sure, definitely. Because 4.0 is, especially if it's it really before 4.0, because 4.0 will have such a massive influx of returning and new players that they want all of these big features polished from Squadron 42, ported over cleanly into the PU, so that way when everybody who has been gone for 1, 2, 3 years or has been waiting for server meshing before they play the game can come in and it's a night and day different experience. You know, the timing works both ways. It gets it ready for Squadron, but it also gets things ready for 4.0 being a massively different experience than what we've had. You know, a big change in terms of content and playability. And then the last team, the oh wait, there is no last team. That was the last team. Why did I have this open? Hmm. Oh, let's see. That's what I was going to do. It's hole munching. Hole. Did hole munching fall off the roadmap? Did they delay that?
Oh. It might have just slipped.
Oh, there we go. It's salvage dash vehicle hole munching.
Oh. Fine, sure, yeah.
So the
Just started.
the teams that here we'll open up another one. Tier 0. So salvage tier 0. So the actor feature team, core gameplay pillar team, worked on it. The UI feature team, which got prioritized to Squadron 42, also worked on it before they got moved over. The vehicle feature team and the weapon feature team, core gameplay pillar teams, all worked on salvage tier 0 hole scraping as part of the effort to get it into the game. And then they have all these other teams, but it was a huge Herculean effort. And then they finished it and it was done. And now the EUPU gameplay feature team is taking that work and expanding upon it. And we're going to get more teams, you know, added to this sprint as it goes on. But they're launching right into salvage. You know, essentially this will be salvage tier 1. You know, right after, you know, before even the release of salvage tier 0. So it's a giant misnomer to say that, oh, okay, well, because of Squadron 42 and the resources dedicated to Squadron 42, we're not going to get new gameplay. But we are. They're working on it. It's right there. You know, those teams that are working on things for Squadron are already working on things that will be implemented to the PU shortly thereafter. Things that aren't challenging to implement. You know, it isn't a massive, huge change. So I just wanted to illustrate these things to everyone to show that what you think is occurring because of what you may have heard, you know, in whether it was from content creators or in different parts of the community or on the Facebook groups or something like that, what you have heard and what people have said is most likely not true about what's going on between Squadron and the PU and the development resources. What is true is that there are things that are being worked on that are needed for Squadron in order to get it released. But the overwhelming majority of those things that are being worked on are things that will be in the PU and are easily ported over to the PU shortly after they are made for Squadron. And a lot of those things that are ported over the PU are ported over, you know, they are prioritized. They are ported over very quickly, you know, and the with the with the removal of obstructions with, you know, core pillars like server meshing and persistence, you know, getting out of the way, to, you know, things that, like, especially with persistence being needed for salvage, those things getting out of the way means that there aren't obstructions to those things being implemented into the PU anymore. That's why we're getting salvage tier 0 and then salvage tier 1 shortly thereafter. But yeah, that's all I have for this scan anomaly. I hope you have found it informative. Maybe you already have read this information, but you forgot. Maybe we're already on the same sheet of music. But, you know, you can go back. All these links for each one of these things will be in the show notes. So you can go back, and when you see people out in the community saying, you know, saying these things that we talked about, you can be like, no, that's not true. And they're like, oh, well, what are you talking about? You don't know. And I'm like, well, yeah, you do. CIJ shows us and they tell us literally verbatim. And It's not hard. You just have to go looking for the information. You have to go do some digging because it is a little bit nebulous. Yeah, Blizzrad says it also lets us give feedback on it before Squadron 42 launches. Congratulations, we have all been promoted to unpaid QA because everything that all the bugs that we find on these features that get implemented in the PU, you can bet they're going to take that information and go back and update the stuff in Squadron to make sure it is ultra polished. Because if it's a bug that's related to maybe a piece of hardware or a piece of software on your computer, that means that they can account for that issue before Squadron 42 launches, so that way when someone downloads Squadron 42 after it launches, they don't have that issue. you know this is QA at scale like no one has ever done before. Brennan G says, ooh, I like that mug. You're going to like it even better here in a second. Turn it this way. Nope, like that. So a buddy of mine makes all sorts of cool swag geared towards my old unit. Yeah, I have like patches, shirts, hats. I have the beer mug, and then I also have a coffee mug and shot glasses. Yeah, all sorts of cool stuff. When I was a young infantry marine, I was in what's called a raider company. And so if you've ever seen those Navy commercials with the high speed Navy SEALs going around on their little rubber boats, all camo face painted and stuff, that's what I did. My unit did that alongside with Navy SEALs and Marine Recon. Um, so yeah, I don't like being cold and wet. I don't mind being wet. I don't mind being cold. I don't like being cold and wet because I had a bad experience. But yeah, so that was what my unit trained to do. Every unit has something that they specialize in. So when they deploy as part of a Marine Expeditionary Unit, you go through trials in order to obtain your um, SOC, Special Operations Capable certification before you deploy. So that way, when you and your MU, Marine Expeditionary Unit, are deployed with the Navy, sailing around the world, you can undertake special operations in your theater wherever you're at, rather than depending on what it is. And so, like on my way back from my second deployment to Iraq, we were only in country for like 4 months. We helped retake Ramadi, but on the way back, we did anti-piracy operations off the Horn of Africa, and so we used our little rubber boats in order to board pirate-held ships, and take down pirates. So,
well, they're not the captain now.
Yeah, you are no longer the captain. Yeah, he's the captain. He's my boss. But yeah, it was super cool stuff. We trained on a lot of it. It also meant that you spent a lot of nights super cold and wet in the Pacific, and yeah, that's why I had that mug, and I have a tattoo for it too. But yeah, that's the end of my scanner anomaly, and now we're on to the Spectrum Pulse. And even though we've had 6, 8, 10 viewers, we don't have any questions yet. And so we've got people live and in chat hanging out. And this is your opportunity, live and relatively in person, to ask Nazeris and I questions. And it's a ask us anything as well as Star Citizen related Q&A. I'm going to check the Discord. Oh, Blizzrad, you cracked me up. I wonder how I go about enabling the dang emotes, because I uploaded a crayon one, I uploaded an LHD one, I uploaded a bunch of fun ones.
Yeah. I have a question. What ships are you interested in for AIE? I'm ready for the Corsair to be stop showing up on all of my ISC. Even though it is the pinnacle of the constellation size ship. Congratulations for it. Get out of my way. The I'm pretty sure there's another ground vehicle coming out. I'm super excited for that because I am unreasonably, as guess this is the word for the stream, excited for ground vehicles in Star Citizen. All the ground vehicles. I want bigger ground vehicles. I want smaller ground vehicles. Like, I don't think anyone here is not excited for the Ranger. If you're not excited for the Ranger, you're doing it wrong. I have a Corsair, but there is a strong chance I'll melt it at the event. So I melt everything I can. I can during AIE, I melt everything except for what I can't melt, which is my biggest ship because it's used by. I upgraded a gifted pack, or not gifted, but what's it called, referral ship, and so I can't melt it for reasons. But yeah, melt everything, and every day buy a whole bunch of ships and melt them too. And that gives you basically your own little exclusive store in your buybacks that you can take. I think it's 1 ship per quarter, or 2 ships per quarter if you are, I believe, a stage 2, the second tier of subscriber. I think I forget which one. And that lets you basically buy any ship you want any time of the year. If you just happen to have the money or you just want to that day, do it. Though most of the time I do find myself just waiting for sales, events, whatever. You have the chance. So I'm gonna be like running through a ton of ships. I have most of what I want. Now it's just fleshing out the stuff I don't have and getting duplicates of the stuff I want a lot of. So I might just do a day all of Steve's. See how much I can get with like $1,000 in Steve's.
$1,000 in Steve's. That is so much Steve, man.
Idris only Steve. Pegasus only of Steve.
Yeah. For ships, I have my wife is asleep, so I can go ahead and say this. I have a obscene amount of ships. I've spent way too much money on this game, but I've also been backing and following for 10 years. So it's, it's where, a good portion of my discretionary spending is gone. But not recently. I haven't really bought much anything too recent. I am, however, super interested to see the whole sea, especially the interior. And I think that the whole sea will be on the show floor at IAE. And I think it's going to launch with 318. That's my prediction. I think we are getting the larger containers, and I think we are getting cargo, because of the cargo timers. The only thing, that will be interesting is how they go about pirating the 32 SCU containers on the whole sea when it releases. Because can you fit a 32 SCU container in a Caterpillar? I mean, yeah, you can definitely get it in your C2.
32,
it's a big container.
Yeah, no, you can. If it's the one I'm thinking. Or no, I'm thinking of the 16 one. I think of the 16 one. Because the 16 ones are already in Crash Caterpillars.
Okay. Yeah.
I think you can. You have to stack them long ways.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you can. I think the 16 SCU only take up half the length of a cargo pod.
Okay. I think you're going to be pretty limited in your options when pirating a whole sea in 318 if it is released, as far as, because the 32 SCU is the smallest container that a whole sea can take. They said that in I think it was the Q&A for the raft. It was in the raft information somewhere. But the raft takes 32 SCU containers, which also happen to be the smallest size container that a whole sea can take. I think with 318 we'll probably...
Interesting. That's new.
I think with 318, we'll probably get the 1 through 32 SU containers, but not
Purchase?
anything bigger. Maybe
Can we
bigger
purchase
for
empty
later.
SCU containers of all those?
No, I think you
I
can
want
only.
to purchase empty containers.
Me too.
Looters want to
Um,
purchase empty containers.
but yeah, I want to see. I'm not a MISC guy, but the whole C has been worked on for so long and has received so much polish work. Um, I'm really looking forward to seeing the interior, especially because I love multi crew ships. I got into this game because of the promise of multi crew, and I think the whole C will be a really interesting looking multi crew ship. I also want to. I want to. Is it is the tube a crawl space? Do you think, or is it an actual walk space? Do you think it's big
It's a
enough to
walk.
walk through?
It's a walk.
Okay, I
Yeah.
want to walk through
It
that
was
thing.
going to be smaller than it should have been,
Mm-hmm.
but after the redo, it is big enough to walk.
Okay.
So if
Yeah.
that's big enough to walk, imagine the whole E.
Yeah. Well, and the yeah, can you drive a Steve down through it? I want to have Steve drag races down the tube of a whole
If
E.
they don't put a train in it, yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the whole sea because I also think
Oh,
what they're
okay.
doing for the whole sea will also largely influence what we end up
Might
seeing
have to twist.
the for the Odyssey. And I have a CCU to the Odyssey from my Carrack, and
I
um,
have an Odyssey.
yeah, so I'm that's why I'm really interested in the whole sea, and it's a big ship. The other
See what the
thing,
Odyssey is going to be like?
yeah, yeah. The other thing is
Sorry.
there is supposed to be an unannounced variant that is finished. You know, the complete work was completed. It says it. Right here we have the September
Is it?
monthly report,
I know
and
it's not going
it's
to be, but could it be a personnel or a person transport version of the Hercules?
I think it's it's a variant, and there was leaks that talked about a Pisces med variant, and so I'm pretty sure it's a med variant for the Pisces, um,
That
which
would
to me is fun and
they
cool,
need some Squadron. Yeah.
and I would totally buy that just so I could use it with my Carrack.
Yep.
Um,
You want to switch
you
over
know,
to my screen real quick?
oh, hold on, let me remember how to do that.
All right. I found the quote that you were talking about. All right. So it says, "Will it be able to accommodate the containers carried by the MISC Hull series? The Hull C and above uses the same 32 SU containers as the Raft as their minimum equipped size container. So the Raft, I assume, the Raft uses the minimum size is the 32 size. I assume. So I don't know. Like there's some fun English going on. The Hull C and above use the same 32 SCU container as the Raft as their minimum equipped size. I don't know. That could be either. But is there a bigger? Is there a 64?
Oh, I'm sure that there will be bigger. It's the 32 is the minimum for the whole C on up. Like you won't be able to put eights and fours on there.
They used to have it.
I don't think the oh, that was the other thing I was going to do. So deliverables. So let's scan down to unannounced because we know there's an unannounced ship, the unannounced variant. The unannounced ground vehicle, I'm pretty sure, is just the Steve, and we'll get confirmation of that on Wednesday. But I'm pretty sure that's a pretty safe assumption. But I think we're going to have a
There's a
concept.
64, there's a 128, and there's a
Yeah.
256. That's a lot of
Jesus.
cargo.
That's a big, big box.
Plus a 245 SCU bonus cargo.
So for unannounced, obviously this is an unannounced something in production. We don't know which one. I think we're going to find out soon.
That.
Oh, whoops. I'm sorry. Switching back.
Yeah.
So unannounced ship in production. Generally, when things in unannounced are completed around an event, it usually means that they are planning on releasing it around that event. Another unannounced thing in production. We don't know which one this is. We don't know which one this is, but that's 3 unannounced vehicles. I'm imagining one of these is the variant and most likely a Pisces, the Pisces variant. And another one of these is the Steve. So we don't know which one, maybe this is the Pisces, maybe this is the Steve because finished right here, around Citizen Con. Or we don't know which one this is, but I also think we're going to get a concept.
Yeah, there's one in there that's only concept art.
Yeah. And I think that either one of these that is going into production could be things that get released as a concept. This one is most definitely a capital ship. I don't think it will be getting. I think this is something that we will see released at Invictus Launch Week. But then there's this, small amount of concept art. So I think that we are going to get a concept, but I don't know which one it would be, and I have no idea what it could be. Because there's nothing else that's really recent.
Yeah,
Let's go to vehicle concept art. So yeah, we shall see. But I am very interested in the Hull C. I'm definitely interested in a medical variant of the Pisces because I love the Pisces, and I'm obviously as a career medic and flight medic, I'm all about anything medical. What's the whole C or the whole E is what is it 74 or is it 90? It's
90K.
A lot. Yeah,
it's 90K.
Jesus.
Yeah. So our second question from Blizzard: with 318 getting some extra time, do you think there are going to be any surprise features to be included? Yes, absolutely. There are. There is so much extra content that is being that I'm not sure. Like the people who are not working on it know. Like, by that I mean Jared and
I feel like there's a good amount of sequestration between the teams too, where they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, we're working on this over here. We had no idea that you were working on that over there."
But there's a lot of still like get up and walk around the office things.
Yeah.
And because you're a dev, you're allowed to look at it. Just because you're a Star Citizen dev doesn't mean you can't go and poke at the Squadron 402 stuff. And they have video calls, and they've said they've had video calls. Hey, what are you showing? Have like little like, oh, I'm working on this. You're working on that. That's and that's how we got our first procedural cities, where like some guy went away and worked on procedural cities on his weekend. He's like, hey, look what I've been over the like that's going in game like tomorrow. But yeah, there is actually a lot of stuff, and we even like had a confirmation, I guess, of stuff we don't know about during CitizenCon when I think Chris said that Tony is trying to put in things, like trying to jam stuff into 318. What that is has not been said, so it's confirmed that he's trying to get stuff in that we don't know about. So, definitely. Let's see. What is next?
Yeah, so with Tony, what Tony Z said, I think that is Tony Z is trying to get in commodity stuff. I'm almost positive trying to get in commodity stuff for 318 to go with the cargo factor. We talked about bounty hunting in a pretty recent episode, which is also stuff that Tony Z's teams are working on. But I don't think that will be in 318. But I very much think
4.0 and beyond.
Yeah, well, bounty hunting, I think for sure, and I was talking about this in Paul's chat, Paul's Discord. I think bounty hunting is a for sure for 319. I think that because bounty hunting represents key tech as part of the quantum simulation. Because remember, quantum is not just the economy. Quantum is everything the NPCs do. As far as basically the system that drives the NPCs from the back end. That is part of the quantum simulation, and that's why Bounty Hunter V2 was mentioned in the um, letter from the chairman, because Bounty Hunter V2 is to quantum as the cargo factor and salvage are to persistence. They are. It's a big gameplay feature that is enabled by a whole bunch of backend services coming online at once. And that's why, go watch that video. I think it's really
And
informative. And
for
you'll be like, oh my
specific
gosh.
numbers that are on the Matrix of Lies, the Hull E clocks it in at 98,304 SCU.
So I think we're for weapons and items for 318. So they only have the multi-tool salvage attachment in here. I think we're going to see the industrial salvage tool and the industrial tractor beam, the two-handed one. Obviously, we've got a bunch more ships with the variant, most likely the Hull C.
Steve even on there?
Yeah, Steve isn't on there, even though Steve is 317. I think it'll get added to the 317.
Are
But
they
more
not
ships to be
doing
added on there.
point patch extras anymore? Like, are we gonna get an extra column, or are they just gonna add it to the 317?
I think they just added to
column?
the 317 column.
All right.
There's a whole lot of stuff on there. Like you said, I'm very intrigued to get confirmation of what they're talking about regarding what Tony Z said, and I think it's very possible. I think what the issue has been getting persistence in and functioning, and now that it's in and functioning, in the live or the Evocati builds, we can test all these other things. There's a lot of content in here. I expect all of these things to go committed very shortly. But yeah, I don't like the things that are being worked on that are nearing release. Like, I think 319 could be hacking in Bounty Hunter V2, which would be huge. But I don't think hacking will make it into 318. I don't think the new UI stuff that we're talking about with the MFDs and the map and radar system, I think those things are getting close, if not are done for Squadron, very soon. But I think those at best would be a 319. I don't think we're going to see those in 318. But
And
interestingly enough, Core Tech, they don't have Gen 12 on here
yet.
Yeah, yet. I see Gen 12 getting added to this. And just because so much of it is slated for 318, I think we're going to get a big update on that. It's in, was it ISC this week coming up, or SCL? I think it was ISC. Yeah, ISC
so, yeah.
is on the underground facilities and Gen 12. So ISC is going to be thick, juicy. But Gen 12 being on here is going to be huge, because you're going to have, with Gen 12, you'll have massive improvements in client performance, especially as far as the areas that still chug, being large collections of ships, the landing zones, the clouds, planetary atmospheres and storms. Yeah, those things will all see substantial improvements, and you'll generally see a lot more parity between, you're not going to transition from space down to the planet and have a massive drop in frames. It'll be much closer, much more similar. You're going to have a much more even playing experience. The other thing I could see getting added would be AI behaviors. AI behaviors and AI functions that are related to the where they are. So related to the new mission stuff. Mm-hmm. So we don't have there's not confirmation. CIG hasn't come out and said it, but they've hinted, they've basically strongly hinted that with persistence there should be a significant improvement in the performance of dedicated game servers, because right now all of persistence, basically when a game server spins up, it spins up with an entire copy of the verse and everything in it stored in memory. And so what happens is when so this is what happened with server-side object container streaming. when and why it didn't create the performance boost that they were all hoping for. Because what it changed is in when things are streamed out of an object container on the server side, those things are still stored on the server in the memory, but they're no longer being updated um, by they're no longer being updated by the server. So the server doesn't have processor power or processor resources that are being needed to update those things, but those entities and the information about them is still stored on the dedicated game server. Well, now with persistent entity streaming, when server side object container streaming streams something off of the out of the server because there's no longer a player there and it doesn't need to be tracked, it will stream not only it won't will no longer not need to be updated by the server on the server processor, but it also won't be stored in memory. It'll be stored elsewhere on another machine somewhere else in on the entity graph. And so you'll have the big change is you won't have server performance getting bogged down because there isn't enough memory, because the server has been running for however many hours or days, and you know players have been loading and unloading out of it and filling up more and more memory. Without memory, your server can't function. A lot of the server crashes are related to out of memory errors. So we should see, other than the inherent issues with new tech, the actual stability of the server. A server shouldn't crash because it runs out of memory anymore. A server should be able to handle more processes and um, handle more data because it will have so much more memory freed up, because things are coming and going through the memory, but they're not staying on the memory for long periods. And the only thing that'll be on the memory is things that are within the object containers that the server is tracking. um, by freeing up all those resources, we should have um, a the the rate at which things get updated um, because will should improve, because the server tick rate should improve, and that should include AI behaviors. So whether they add new AI behaviors or the ones that we have perform in a more timely manner, either way the experience should be better. And I think that's part of why they are adding they don't say it, but the security post Korea reactivation, there's an event for this. We don't know the details for it yet, but there's going to be an event. And they're going to be running all the other events over the holiday break and into quarter 1 while they're working on 319, which is what my bet is. Um, and they're going to be collecting all the data on the server performance and the tick rate and how the AI are performing. Now that PES is in and a significant burden is lifted off the servers. So
Yeah.
those are things I'm hoping for.
Yeah. So underground facilities, and I agree that I think 318 is going to be Q1. The Q1 patch, it'll be live at Q1. Or it'll be live at Q1, or do you think it would be
Wait, are you talking about
the holiday
319 or?
patch? Yeah, 319. No, 318. 318.
So
The
they
PES
said
patch.
that they're targeting 318 for the beginning of um I don't want to pull up my calendar for everybody to see, but they're targeting it for the beginning of December. And basically, I think they're meaning the Friday, because Citizen or IAE will get done on, like, I think it's December 2nd. It's the first Wednesday of December.
They want to. They don't want a live build then, do they?
No, no, no. 318. Yeah, IAE is going to be 317.4. They did confirm
Right.
that,
Right.
but um, the so let's see, I'm pulling it up. So if they hold true to the schedule that they've ran before, let's see. Oh, okay. So Friday, the 18th of November, should be the start of IAE. And then Wednesday, the 30th of November, should be the end of IAE. And when they said beginning of December, I think that they're meaning December 2nd, Friday, 2 days after IAE finishes, is when they were hoping, because they oftentimes they drop live patches on a Friday. So I think if they're saying the beginning of December, they're probably meaning December 2nd, because if
As a
December
open PTU, you're
as
thinking?
live,
As live.
I
You
think
think they
we'll be in PTU before that.
that means we'll be running a PTU during
Yep.
IE.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll see how that goes. But that's what I
So
mean.
we're
That's what
just
they
gonna
said is
call
they
318
the
the
December
holiday
patch.
patch. The holiday
But
we'll call it the holiday patch,
they usually go on holiday break,
yeah.
like it's the Wednesday before Christmas, so it would be like Wednesday the 21st. If
Yep.
they release 318 live when they want to, big if, on the 2nd, is what I'm speculating. That gives them it gives them over 2 weeks to get a
Purposes.
.1 patch in. So a 318.1 with bug fixes, a couple of the things that they couldn't get it into the live build, that they were almost finished with, but needed a little bit more time to bake in QA, whatever. But lots of bug fixes and stability fixes in order to get 318 in a better state than the beginning of December. So that way, when they go on break, and for all of Q1 while we're waiting on 319, for 318 to be in a much better state. So that's what
And
I'm anticipating.
319 being March next year.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be one of those ones that slips into like 317 slipped into April, right? And then they had a
I think
317
319 will
one.
actually be like, I hope it's gonna be like refreshingly on time because it's the mop up.
The only
It's
reason I could
the
see it being take a while is because if 319 is Bounty Hunter V2, there's like
yeah. If there's something
4
like
or 5.
major in it,
Yeah, I think it's guaranteed. I don't think that CR was being subtle in the slightest when he said Bounty Hunter V2 at the end of the year, because he was hoping that they would get their services done so that 319 would be before the end of the year.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and so they're still working on those services. There's like 4 of them,
So
but
anyway,
those are very important services to Quantum, and it's not as pivotal as PES, because PES is like 18 services, and we're not even getting all 18 in this first iteration. We're getting like 16 of them. I think that's why 319 could take a little. They'll still be recovering from 318 in the holiday break. There's gonna it might need a little extra time to bake, but I see 319 you know at best end of March, most likely sometime in April, and then they have a month for it to bake, and then 319.1 is Invictus launch week towards the end of May, and then we get a 319.2 to hold us over, until 4.0 for CitizenCon. You know, if that opportunity is set up in front of Chris, I think even if 4.0 is pretty close to ready, he won't rush it. They'll hold on to it and go for,
You think they're
take.
gonna hold on to it for 2 quarters?
No, I think that they are planning on have been planning on a 319 patch for a while, and I think that by
Yeah, you
doing
said
that, it
you said 4.0 at CitizenCon though.
yeah. So
That's in
no,
October.
yeah, no summer patch. It would be the go live on CitizenCon, and it's the Q3 patch, you because they've done that before. But that would give them time to take the stuff that they're introducing in 4.0 and make a badass keynote using
God,
it.
that'd be so nice.
I mean, can you imagine? Think of the keynote that they could do with 4.0, with server meshing and persistence, all of Pyro, and
Here's the
more
bug in that
AI,
though.
and all the UI stuff that they'd have. I
Yeah.
mean, the flashiness, they would, you would have so much money coming in Q4 that they would drown in it.
I still don't think they would wait. I think we get. I don't. I think it'll be done before that, but I've been wrong before. But I don't think they should wait on it. I think they should kick it out the door because they need to do the 0.1 patch.
Are you talking about for
Like,
4.0?
I can definitely get why they would. Hold on, because likes the flashbang. A
I'm just
year
thinking
away.
with the potential for what a keynote could look like for 4.0 at CitizenCon.
You can make a 4.0 keynote post 4.0.
Yeah. It's Ciara loves showmanship. I think that would give them a lot of opportunity showmanship and a lot of opportunity for them to get 4.0 in a better state come release, and being because that's people are outside of the community, people aren't paying as much attention to 318 and PS as I think they will be paying attention to 4.0 with
true.
pyro and server meshing.
Yeah.
And I think that we're going to want that in a much better place. And in order to show it off in a much better place, have it have it launch at CitizenCon after a great big demo showing all sorts of super cool stuff. Because I like with I could see the UI stuff that we were just talking about slipping and getting a lot of polish, and all getting released in one fell swoop with 4.0 after being in QA for 6+ months, 6 months or so. Well, I mean, it'd probably be that they would have a build in QA in May, so it would be 5 months. Less than 5 months, it'd be 4 to 5 months. That's a long time, but it means that it could be a really big patch. But who knows? Because the other thing is we don't know what they would have planned post 4.0 and server meshing. Because here's a release view. We don't even know what's planned for 319. We are simply speculating about Bounty Hunter V2 and hacking. Those are just things that we think could be ready, based off what they've told us and what things look like on the progress tracker. All we know for 4.0.
It'd be like the best CitizenCon ever, and the thing to like shut up every single hater as I'm looking at this roadmap. A Squadron date.
Yeah, that would go nuts. I want to
most of the stuff
see a
tagged
keynote.
Squadron, like even like tagged with Squadron, not just Squadron Spit, doesn't go to the edge. So June.
Oh yeah,
there's one thing so far.
It's a lot of things that are small potatoes.
Yeah,
and it's things that have been placeholder, within the game for a while.
Like
and
all
they're
the
getting
stuff
rid
that
of all
runs
those
into the
little
wall is
placeholder
specifically
things.
tagged as only Star Citizen. Like,
Yeah,
obviously, like big red flags, tinfoil hats. Like, we don't have the next update. That like this entire conversation of Squadron at CitizenCon next year will change in the next week. Whether that is a more interest or a refrain, that is to be seen in a week. But there's not a lot on the roadmap currently that is longer. Like, two things so far that I've seen hit the wall, and by the wall I mean, for those watching, the quarters, when the line goes to the edge of the quarter, the of the roadmap that we have, the latest quarter. So in our case, it'd be Q2 is the latest we have. When it goes straight to the side, and it's normally an indication that we'll actually get longer. So it's been the ongoing ones, the miscellaneous support, the tech debt and bug fixes.
mm-hmm.
Like mop and bucket. That one only goes to May, not June.
The way it looks to me is like hey, we are changing these teams so that they get their cadence from Squadron 42. It's like for the core gameplay pillar was a 2 year diversion, and the other teams, a year and a half long diversion. That mean, based off what they've shown us on the progress tracker and what they've gotten done, and what we can sort of anticipate what else they need to work on. But that you can already see hints of them. Okay, well, they got this and this done, you know, and now they're doing this. Well, that's a PU thing. This is a PU thing. This is a PU thing, and so they're already starting to shift back over. In some sense, they just needed to reprioritize them, for a short period of time. And to me, that it's okay. We need to reprioritize you for a year to 2 years in order to get to Squadron 42 beta, because Squadron 42 beta is, everything's in there. It's just polish, and that's why they brought those teams over, just to get them to beta, so that way they can polish things, and they can leave a more not skeleton, but a reduced crew on Squadron, during the beta phase before getting it out, because the heavy lifting is really getting all of the features in there, all of the functionality in there, and because so much of those features and functionality, the work is wrapping up, if not having already wrapped up, or will be
Yeah.
wrapping up soon. It's
And man, I'm again super psyched to read the next monthly report just to
yeah,
see like what all the work is going on. Like look at unannounced. Unannounced is almost exclusively let's see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tasks unannounced for Squadron. 3 of them only Squadron, and that is a feature, a feature, a feature. So 3 features we don't know about, and
I'm
a
very
narrative
curious what
content.
those are. Yeah. I actually have a question for you, and I'm going to start with my answer. If, say, 4.0 does go live at CitizenCon next year, and they do a big, they have the return to live CitizenCon, it's a great big event. We know that 4.0 is in PTU, and we've been playing it when everybody's just eagerly awaiting live, etc. Um, what would you like to see at a 4.0 CitizenCon um, keynote presentation? And I'm going to start with mine because I want to see how we differ.
Okay.
So don't let mine color, don't let mine change your answer. Hold on to your
Okay.
answer. I want you to get it locked in your head. Don't change it. I want to see um, a mission that starts in Stanton, and you end up going to an abandoned underground facility in Pyro, and picking something up and having to fight your way through ruin to deliver it to somebody that needs it. Like you start off in Grimhex, and you meet with a fixer, in Grimhex, some sort of NPC says, "Hey, I got a contract for from somebody who wants one of these, and I know where you can find one. The only problem is it's in Pyro, and you might you'll find them in the underground facilities that used to belong to this corporation on Pyro 2, that used to be that was mined heavily. So that's not the worst of it. You have to get into this underground facility previously owned by so and so, and I don't know where they are, but they're you got to look for this and this in order to get this component or get this piece of information or something like that. And the buyer, he's on Ruin Station. And right now, Ruin Station is real hot. And then you have to get to Ruin Station, and you can either stealth your way, like Backton is saying, you can, kind of like the demo for, at last year's CitizenCon, you know, you can stealth your way onto Ruin Station. You can fight your way into Ruin Station. Um, you know, who knows? Um, or you can go about it the normal way, buy your way in, that sort of thing. Um, I want to see that kind of gameplay because, like, maybe you have to cut your way into this door, you know, to get to this, area of the underground facility, and then you have to hack your way through a still powered, panel to open up another one, and another one you have to, use an FPS device, which is a breaching charge, show those off, and then you have to go through all this, maybe fight some creatures, you have to go through all that to finally find this thing, and then you still have to deliver it through the absolute hellhole that is Ruin Station, and then you get to see Ruin Station in all its magnificent size and glory and pirate, gang warfare. But yeah, that's what I want to see. What about you, Nezers?
At this point, I have two different possible keynotes. The second one, mostly because of what we've been talking about today. But the first one I talked about on the 24-hour live stream with Paul. And that's, you want to come back to CitizenCon with not just, this is CitizenCon, this is what we do every year, but celebrate the things that make CitizenCon and keynotes so good. So you don't just follow a mission like we've done. We've done that several times. So what about 16 different people?
Ooh.
So it starts out and you see 16 screens on the big screen, right? And they're all doing something different. Everyone's doing something different. And you zoom into one, and he's waking up, he's getting his suit on, and he goes and takes over a ship. And you see in the background, as you zoom away from him to the next screen, and he's picking up some cargo, and he flies out. And then you zoom away from him to the next guy, and then weave an entire line through a giant narrative that shows off Star Citizen entire breadth as it stands in 4.0. That's keynote number one. My second idea that I came up with when you asked the question is don't show just what we have. Show what's next. Keynote is always about what's next. So you start in Stanton, sure, makes sense. That's where we know, and we're starting into Pyro for this system. And then go to Delamar. Then go to Levski. Land at Levski. You finish at Levski. Maybe it's even not a pirate. So do it a not so piratey person. So that makes Pyro really scary because you're not for them. You're a law-abiding citizen. So you gotta play really safe when you. But Levski is your breath of fresh air. They welcome you as long as you don't try and do anything funny, which they do in Pyro. So you're actually protected from people from Pyro. So if you're trying to wake up in Stanton, much like yours, wake up in Stanton, go to Pyro for the mission, but end it at Levski. So that's pitch 2.
I like it. I can't wait for new Delamar, new Levski, because I mean it's going to get updated, like it polished, but there's also going to be additions, and I can't wait to see what those are. Because for you and me and a lot of other people, Levski is super nostalgic, but then to come back and there's something new, something different, yeah. Additions, maybe the work for underground facilities, or sorry, for asteroid facilities influences Levski 2.0.
Yeah. I do really think we're gonna see, if not, and this is way over optimistic, so beware, over optimism warning. If not, Chris standing on stage with the Squadron disc in his hand, at least announcement that, hey, we're closing out now. This is it. It is at most a year away.
If I would not be surprised if we get a Squadron 42 is going into beta, going into internal beta announcement at CitizenCon 2023 with a trailer type thing, not full 1 hour, what's the word, vertical slice, but
Mhm.
I think a trailer. A trailer showing us something
The
new
dangerous part about
that
that
isn't
is the
spoilery.
2016 trailer.
Yeah.
And
Oh
I
yeah.
think they want to distance themselves as much as possible from that trailer.
Yeah.
So
I think it's.
I don't think it'd
I
be
think with the announcement of
wise.
being in beta, Squadron 42 is now, thanks to, the additional resources, Squadron 42 is now feature complete and going into beta testing. We don't have a release date just yet, but it is feature complete going into beta testing. Here's a sizzle reel of what we've been working on. You
As long as it's an announcement of something that is tangible
yeah,
and not a like, oh, we'll be in beta next year, like 2025 or 20, what did that be? 2024 beta. As long as they don't like say we're about to be somewhere. Here's a trailer. Don't do that again. Don't do that.
yeah,
That would be bad because everyone would get violent flashbacks to 2015. Like I think it would be unwise to make a trailer even for beta. I think it should be we're in closeout. We'll like just say that we're planning to be released by the next year, and everyone will say, okay, so if you're releasing next year, that means you're releasing in 25. But as long as you don't say a date, you're good. You're good. You're good. You're fine.
yep, yeah. The God, I can't wait for Nyx, because I think Nyx is going to drop with like I think we'll get underground facilities with
Mm-hmm.
Pyro and 4.0. I think that they are
Mm-hmm.
far enough along that they will introduce those with 4.0. And
Especially if it takes
maybe,
another year.
yeah, yeah, and maybe they'll introduce them. We'll get some in Stanton and some in Pyro, but I don't think we're going to see the asteroid facilities added to Pyro until, if any, until I think the addition of Nyx to the game is when we'll see the asteroid facilities, and you can't see it unless you're watching the stream. But I have
I am.
a screenshot, um, because um, Jared, who is in a Citizen Con, watch party, not watch party, but like a post discussion thing on a stream, said that this is not just set dressing. This is stuff that they're, this is in Squadron 42, you know, but this is what's being worked on. Wrong one. For asteroid facilities. So this is like early. This is, you've got, some things that are just slapped onto the side of an asteroid to make it look cool. But that's a hangar entrance, and they're already working on the asteroid facilities and have been working on them for several months and are scheduled to work on them well into next year. And I imagine that, with underground facilities, being part of the lore for Pyro 2, and I think it's Nyx 2, Nyx 1 or 2, I forget which one, but the asteroid facilities being is such a huge part of the lore within the Nyx system, even the most updated lore on the Galactopedia, which is coincidentally down right now. This is, as cool as the asteroid facilities are, I think we're going to get a presentation, or the underground facilities are. I think we're going to get a presentation like the one we had for for UGFs for, ooh, we just call them AFs, as fucks. um, for asteroid facilities at CitizenCon next year, but it'll be farther along. Instead of it being concept art and white box, you'll see concept art, white box. We're well into gray box, and Levski is on the roadmap for whatever planned. And these are going to be launching, or sorry, Nyx, and these are going to be launching with Nyx in 2024. Q1, what have you? I don't know, because these are the ones, as nostalgic as I am for Levski, I'm even more nostalgic and hopeful for the asteroid hangar that we had in the hangar module back in the day, and being able to fly your ship
That reminds me. Did I
into
just
your
get?
base built into an asteroid. Your own little private rock, your own little private space potato, built into the middle of, built into an asteroid out in the middle of nowhere in the glacium ring,
Oh,
hidden
how
by other
interesting.
asteroids and nebula.
The work on persistent hangars is complete.
I think there's going to be more added to it, but I don't think there's a lot.
Oh, that's true. That's true. That's true. Well, there might be adjacent work. It is USP and it didn't hit September.
Yeah, there's going to be more work for that.
Okay.
They have done quite a bit though.
Good
But I
old
think there's going to.
tutorial level. God dang it. I hate it.
Oh man, what was the name of that guy? The tutorial guy, the character.
I have no idea.
Hmm.
I only didn't play it once.
Well, Nazarus, chat. Um, unless we have any more burning questions, and if you do, Gilly, yes,
Yeah,
thank you,
yeah.
Macton. Yes. Oh gosh, bring him back. Bring back Gilly. They have to bring
First,
back
Tessa.
Gilly.
If you bring back Gilly before Tessa, I will uninstall the game.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I concede. But I want Gilly back. I think Gilly should be a part of the game. Um, you know,
He
so
should
new
be.
players
He
can
should be in
experience him
Levski.
just like us old backers can.
He should be like dude who retired and just went to Levski because he's just done with the crap.
Yeah, I'm so over these new people and their shit.
Well, he's just done with it.
Yeah. Unless anyone in chat has any more burning questions that they would like to ask, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. And again, if you do have questions, if you have things that you are curious about and you want investigated, join my Discord. Hop on down to the Pathfinders channel, and there is submit a question right here. And you can talk about the episodes right here. You can ask us a question right here. All that. There are hidden channels in here that you cannot see. So we'll go away from that. Whoops, wrong one. That are for the hosts and the guests and the mods. But yeah, join us in the conversation in the Discord. Oh, Brennan G says, I do have one more. Do you think we'll see widespread spawn locations once the game is in a release state instead of starting all in one system? It depends what you mean by widespread. I do think we will
I'd be
have.
shocked if you can't spawn in Rune Station.
Yeah. Um,
We already
I
have
think,
the
yeah,
two systems.
it'll be limited to landing zones.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming Brennan G, you're talking about initial spawn. Yeah, as initial spawn, this is your home base. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
landing zones. And I actually went through, and I made a spreadsheet of all the landing zones I could find in the lore, for Star Citizen, and it's hard because some things are clearly labeled as landing zones, and other things are labeled as the only landing zone, but it's a small town. It's like, okay, does that count? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and there are
But we
and there's
will.
ones that are mentioned in the lore, and there's ones that are actually on the star map, and there's more that are mentioned in the lore that aren't on the star map. I went through the system surveys, or oh crap, that's what Paul calls them. What does CIG call them? I went through each of the com links.
Galaxy.
Yeah, I went through each one of the com links for those in order to find any and all landing zones, whether they are on the star map or not. And there's like 32, I think I remember is what I counted, with a few others that I was like, meh, they don't really even call it a landing zone, but they say it's like there's like a town or a little hamlet here.
I'm sure there won't be some in, or there won't be a spawn location in all systems, but in most
Nope.
systems, there will be. At least for the first like 4 systems we get, which is Stanton, Pyro, Nyx, Castra.
Yeah, I estimated it based off my count it being 28 to 32 that we know of so far.
Two systems before Terra.
Castra is what I'm guessing.
The 2 after that before Terra.
Oh, are you talking about from when we did the podcast about it?
Mm-hmm.
Before
There's
Terra,
2 between Castra and Terra.
There's one between Castra and Terra, and that's Hadrian.
I thought there was two
Um,
there.
nope.
Just one.
Yeah, it goes
Okay.
Terra, Hadrian, Castra.
Okay.
Um, but
So does Hadrian have one?
I don't believe Hadrian will have one because there's no
No.
habitable planets.
Okay. That's why I
But
thought there was two. Because there's. Oh
the
yeah.
question is, can there? It's the Kedzu Reef, is that collection of space stations there? The
Mm-hmm.
question is, will they consider that a landing zone, kind of like they do um, Ruin
Ruin.
Station or Levski? You know,
Yeah.
we don't know. I included that in my list because it's so prominent,
So that's four,
but it's
five,
a maybe.
6, 7, possibly 8.
Yeah,
And I'm
and
assuming this is my assumption that we get those. Was it 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, six systems. So Stanton, Pyro, Nyx, Castra, Hadrian, Terra, and that is our release candidate. That is Star Citizen version 1.
could be. I think what we're going to really consider as starter systems are the ones with multiple landing zones, and those are the very civilized ones. Or you know, Stanton is civilized relatively. So places like Stanton, Terra, Seoul, Croshaw, um, the systems with multiple habitable planets with multiple cities on them. Those are going to be your starting systems that most people start out at, but you'll also be able to select other ones. And this is just purely speculation. I think that there will be, that there's likely to be benefits, risk reward cost,
Reputation.
cost gain things, for starting in certain places. Like, um, starting in a certain place will get you, yeah, like you're starting here, you know, um, how in some RPGs you sort of get to pick your backstory elements,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
kind of like that, where you're starting here, and here are your options for, you know, people, for organizations that you have reputation with, so you can sort of make your backstory. Like, I'm starting out as a hauler, and I want to put like 4 points into, whatever hauling corporation is in, this system, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're definitely going to be more centralized at first. Um, but there's a difference between a starter system and, your, where you can set your spawn at. And I don't think it's going to be a hard difference, but I think that there will be, significant distinctions. Um, maybe even warnings of saying, oh yeah, you can set your initial spawn location to be, Ashana, or Olympus on Ashana in the Null system, but we don't recommend it. You with your little, um, you know, Avenger starter ship.
I
But yeah,
imagine there'll be just
I'm gonna.
like little tags for like this kind of gameplay in this system. So like Stanton, there's trade,
Yeah,
and light combat missions, light piracy missions, but mostly lawful missions. So mining and trading is a much higher thing. But a pyro spawn would have the tags of high combat and high piracy, low trade, low mining, kind of thing. Um, and have
yep,
those kind of tags. So like it's not gonna punish you if you choose one of the things that system's good for. So like if you're a pirate, starting in pyro makes so much sense. Like it's a go-to place for that. But if you want to do something lawful, then starting in pyro is gonna. But starting with Stanton will be the exact opposite. There's a lot of security, so it's gonna be hard to be a pirate, but really good to be an economy player, or even Terra. It's even farther that way. So I imagine it will just be like, hey, choose your system, probably based on your gameplay, but you do you.
yeah. Your decisions matter. Go for it. We'll see you at the hospital soon. um, and Brennan G, I will drop the link to that spreadsheet. I made that a while ago, and so there may have been changes and everything, but you can take a look at it. And if there's anything else that you think belongs on that spreadsheet, that you may have noticed, absolutely let me know. But I will drop that in the SC discussion. channel within my Discord if you want to take a look at it. I'll also drop the link and I'll pin both of those, the link to my spreadsheet that I have for the changes to the sizes of star systems between the SC Tools wiki and the Arc Star map. Whether those have been updated on SC Tools in the last couple months, I don't know because I did bring it up to them. But as of when I made it, it was accurate. So there are a lot of changes. But yeah, that is kind of what we do. Um, Barring any further questions, going once, going twice. Alrighty.
Oh,
Sounds like that's it. There's our Spectrum Pulse for the evening. Yeah, it's bedtime for this whole fart. Same, same. Um, Thank you if you're still with us, and if you aren't, thank you for hanging out this evening and chatting with us and being a part of the podcast. Again, this episode will be up on YouTube probably in the next 2 days, is what I'm going for. Um, and along with the show notes will be in the episode description. A little bit shorter this time because it's mostly just link to Naz's thing.
it's still 3 hours.
Yeah, no, I mean the show notes document
Oh,
itself.
okay,
Sorry.
okay.
And then a few links to the things that I dug up. But again, yeah, thanks for joining us. As always, hop into my Discord, Nazeris' Discord. Everybody's always welcome. We're always available to talk and answer questions. We love to do that stuff. And yeah, I think that's a wrap.
Nope.
Nazeris, are you going to tell them to be kind? Or do I have to remind you?
I can. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
As always, be kind.
Be kind. Be kind, rewind. Oh, yeah, there's an old fart. Just dated yourself there, Brennan G.